Artificial intelligence is to help teachers mark homework under new government plans. So we're asking, what do you think?
And in the sport, here's a guessing game. Guess the female British tennis player knocked out the US Open in the first round. Who can I please, answers on a postcard only, please, Mr. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Dan Evans plays the longest game in the tournament's history. The Raheem Sterling-Jaden Sancho swap looks very likely before the transfer window shuts on Friday. And the Paralympics opens in Paris tonight.
Good morning, and quite a warm day to come for some of us, but will that warm weather last until the weekend? We can find out with me a little later on.
Time 1 minute past 6 o'clock. A very good morning to you. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster, and this is GB News Breakfast.
So the Prime Minister is in Germany, and he's saying his trip there is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to reset Britain's relationship with Europe.
Sir Keir Starmer is in the country for 2 days of meetings in Berlin and then moves to Paris.
He'll meet German Chancellor to launch negotiations on a new bilateral treaty, which hopes to boost business and increase joint action on illegal migration.
This comes as the PM's under fire for warning yesterday on the tax raid on middle-class families ahead of the painful, in his words, autumn budget.
Well, let's now speak to the Mayor of Middlesbrough and political commentator Andy Preston. Andy, good morning to you.
Morning. Hi, everyone.
Andy, how do you see this shaping up? What do you think Keir Starmer is trying to do here?
Well, I think most of us know that deep down he's very much European. I think that he won't take us back into Europe. He'll do everything he can to make us work more closely and more harmoniously. Personally, I think that we need to take action on migration, and we need to do that with Europe. It's a worldwide problem. And part of the failure of Britain in this regard has been trying to act on our own with bad will from European countries. So working with them, I think, is key. And for a lot of your listeners, I know migration, illegal immigration is so important. So I think people will actually welcome this action.
Benefits as they thought they would from a Brexit.
I'm sorry, Eamonn, could you repeat that?
Yeah, I'm just saying, what were the benefits of Brexit? Maybe people will agree with all of this because they failed to see the obvious benefits.
Yeah, totally. Listen, I speak to a wide range of people, and I do think that what Keir Starmer, if he does this really well, he will satisfy the Remoaners, the Remainers, perhaps I'm in that camp. I think he'll satisfy Brexiteers. He'll keep Britain independent, but give us better trade. But we've also got to think about Vladimir Putin. He's in the background. He's got eyes on Poland if he is successful in the Ukraine, edging nearer to Germany, edging nearer to Britain. So we've got to work really closely. That doesn't mean we have to stay in the EU. You know, his popularity is plunging so rapidly. This is Keir Starmer, of course, I'm talking about, not Vladimir Putin. His popularity is plunging so rapidly. I did a social media post yesterday. I've received 500 comments. 90% were very negative about him. So this might be his chance to build some credibility.
Yeah, although that wouldn't be a scientific poll necessarily, would it, Andy? Because people who follow you are going for a particular flavour of politics, just to make that point. But this isn't about Europe, is it? Because actually, Brussels' nose might be out of joint at the idea of Germany having a deal just with Britain. You know, quite frankly, that's leaving the rest of the EU out.
I think the bureaucrats in Brussels will be a little bit tetchy, but you know what? It's what the people in the street, how they react. That's what's important. And I've no doubt from Berlin to Brussels, people in Europe and in Britain will be happy that major European nations are talking and that they're discussing migration. The fact that migration is on the agenda is a big plus. This is not some lovey-dovey left-wing thing. This is about practical issues that everybody cares about.
And you think this is a two-way process, that it's not just about us sucking up to Berlin. It favours, you know, the rest of Europe having a good relationship with Britain.
Eamonn, Berlin and Germany definitely want a great trading relationship with Britain. That's definitely the case. But it's also true that I think we need to make a little bit of ground. I think we've isolated and alienated some of our neighbours, and we need to show a little bit of willing. So I think him going is a good move. He's got to be seen as a partner, not as a poodle. And he's got to keep migration firmly on the agenda to keep everybody on side. I think he can do it. I'm not his biggest fan, but I think this is the kind of thing that Keir Starmer can do very well.
Yeah, I agree with you, Andy, on this, because I think that the big issues that people voted for Brexit, they're not going to be touched. But the things like the idea of swapping students for science projects and travel.
Well, that's the question:
Europe.
is what would Germany want in response to this? I suppose what's in it for Germany? And there's lots of talk that they want their youngsters to be able to come and travel freely, and then that could spread to up to 30 EU countries for under 30s to come and live and work here for up to 3 years. But it would be reciprocal, so then Brits could also do the same all over Europe, like they used to. And that's been one of the big drawbacks, hasn't it, of Brexit? That was sort of unforeseen for a generation of youngsters. Will there be much opposition, do you think, to that, Andy?
I think some of the older people will get a little bit tetchy about that tiny element of free movement. But I think, in truth, for politicians, Isabel, it's really important to keep everyone, but especially young people, on side. And this is a monstrous issue to young people. If you go and talk to them, they were desperately disappointed with Brexit, but particularly the concept of free movement. And allowing that will be great news, keep them on side. And for Keir Starmer, win a lot of popularity. What's really interesting is that young people haven't been as attracted to Labour as they have been in the past, possibly drifting slightly to the right. So this may well do him some personal popularity favours. But as we keep being short of Labour, we're desperately short of workers, from brain surgeons to binmen. We can't recruit enough people. They're just not out there. So some degree of free movement, some degree, is a good thing for everyone, where people can move to where the opportunities are. And Britain would be a beneficiary of that. But it's a sensitive subject here, so it's got to be restricted to young people only.
Yeah, well, interesting. It's going to throw up a lot of interesting factors with all of this, Andy Preston. Thanks for your take and your views on things. We've got the conversation going this morning, and now we want to know, you watching and listening at home, what do you think about this? Could you have a lot of the good aspects of being associated with Europe brought back again without touching the bits you didn't like voting for Brexit?
And we've got Robert Jenrick, obviously the hopeful to be leader of the Conservatives in the future, coming on the programme just after 8 o'clock. Be interesting to see what he thinks about all of this. He's obviously shifted his position quite significantly over the last few years, having voted Remain and now being staunchly to the right of the party. So let's find out from him a little bit later on. Let us know what you think as well.
OK. The time, 8 minutes past 6 o'clock. A very good morning to you. Meghan Markle is finding it very, very difficult to recruit staff for her lifestyle brand, which is called American Riviera Orchard. There's a mouthful for you.
It's really pretentious, isn't it?
American Riviera.
Sorry.
ARO. Yeah, anyway. Apart from a jam gifted to influencers earlier this year, the brand is yet to launch any products.
Well, let's speak to our US royal and showbiz reporter, Kinsey Schofield. Good morning to you, Kinsey. But she's said to be quite a taskmaster. She's up early, firing out the emails. We know she has a problem with retention. Who's going to want that gig?
I mean, there are rumors that Netflix has said, allow us to manage the retail strategy. If she can't manage to find a CEO or somebody willing to work with her, Netflix sees an opportunity there. They are going to release a cooking show where she's going to be handling lots of different utensils, lots of different products, and maybe they could create affiliate links. Maybe they could place some of those items on American Riviera Orchard and use that Netflix series to drive traffic to her website. And Meghan truly become an influencer again, which is kind of what she was before she met Prince Harry, when she had a blog herself called The Tig. I think that that's an option. But yeah, this was a source telling Closer magazine that Harry and Meghan are pretty tough. But we also had a former Archewell employee a few weeks ago tell one of our cable stations, News Nation, that despite Harry and Meghan's CEO being, Prince Harry's chief of staff. It was Meghan. She was unbearable. She talks down to people and is very condescending. So I do think that they're going to continue to have a hard time finding people that want to work underneath them. I'm intimidated just thinking about it.
Many things there, Kinsey. Getting people who want to work with her, not because, and we're using phrases, she's tough, she's up early. No, she's not. She's obviously just impossible to work with, and that will, you know, produce its own problems with that. And also, to be an influencer, people have got to want to be like you, and they've actually got to like her. Do people like her?
I mean, this has been her biggest issue in the last few years, is realizing that there's been a shift when it comes to their popularity. Harry and Meghan believed their own hype when they said on that Netflix series that the reason they were ostracized was because they were much more popular than the British royals. They were more popular than Prince William, more popular than Princess Kate. And their popularity has declined immensely. And now they are desperate to win people over again. But royalists are very much, they're very much tuned out when it comes to Harry and Meghan, not rooting for their success anymore because they feel like they have been cruel and toxic towards the royal family over the last few years.
So who would be in contention? Who do you actually think would be coming forward to apply for this job? And what's the task that faces the likely candidate?
I think Joe Exotic from The Tiger King is
he in jail?
Seems like he is, but you know what? He makes a lot of phone calls. So
what? Come on. There's no way Meghan, who's massively into animals, is going to be in favour of that. Anyway. Okay, Joe Exotic, cross that one off the list. Next.
Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna take somebody that's really tough. It's gonna take somebody that realizes that there's a rainbow at the end of the tunnel, and they just have to persevere. And I don't know that I don't think I could do it.
Yeah, I don't think I could do it. But I have to say, you know, you were talking about who wants to be like them. When Meghan did set up the influencing website pre-Harry, the TIG, wasn't it called? It was pretty cool. Like
no. The difference is it was pre-Harry.
It was
pre-Harry and pre-how she's painted nowadays.
No, 100%. But I have to say, totally in a, you know, without looking at all of the stuff that's happening as a Brit being offended and her treatment of the royal family, she's sorted her style out in recent years, I would have to say, because she had a bit of a wobble when she was in the royal family. She looks great, and a lot of people will just be that simple, that shallow. Lots of young
I'm telling you,
you,
most people have to be liked or admired, and I put it to you, Kinsey, she'll have difficulty on both fronts.
I have heard in the last few weeks that Netflix is not going to renew this contract. I mean, they are fearful that this cooking show, this polo show, will not connect with the audience, and certainly is not going to connect in the way that the Harry and Meghan original series did, because it was all gossip. It was gutter gossip. It was nasty tea spilled all about the British royal family. And now they want us to believe that Meghan is at home cooking all this banana bread and having her best friend Chrissy Teigen over for scones. People aren't going to buy it. And then polo, that's going to be a really difficult project to sell to an American audience as well. So if this bombs the way that it's expected to, Netflix is going to cut ties. They're going to have no Netflix, no Spotify. And it is a reflection on the way that they collaborate with people in the industry. People are going to avoid them because they do seem difficult.
Well, there we go. You've ruled yourself out, Kinsey. So we know that's not going to happen. Thanks, as always. Really appreciate your take on that this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other stories coming into the newsroom on this Wednesday morning. The amount of cannabis seized from smugglers carrying the drug in suitcases has tripled in less than a year. So far this year, around 15 tonnes of the drug has been uncovered at airports, compared to 5 tonnes throughout the whole of last year and 2 tonnes the year before.
This is an interesting one. The Ryanair chief executive, Michael O'Leary, has called for alcohol limits in airports to tackle a rise in disorder on his flights. He said passengers should be restricted to 2 drinks per journey to curb what he says is an increase in antisocial behaviour and violence. He told the Daily Telegraph violent outbursts are occurring weekly with alcohol, especially when mixed with other substances.
Top doctors have called for legislation aimed at tackling youth vaping, to include a total ban on disposable e-cigarettes and all flavours apart from tobacco. The British Medical Association urged ministers to take bold and brave actions to protect the health of children amid a vaping epidemic.
I think that Ryanair thing's really interesting. I was reading what he was saying earlier this morning, and he's saying the airports are his biggest problem because they want to sell as much booze as they can to the passengers. They're already saying you can only bring water onto our flights, and then he realised that people were filling up their water bottles with vodka.
Well,
so now they've banned water bottles on Ryanair flights.
No. You've got to look at who this is affecting. This is not affecting people on posher airlines and who are paying more for their tickets. It's affecting people who are paying 17 quid for a ticket and where they're all on Michael O'Leary's flights. So he's got something to do with how people are being treated. They're being treated like cattle. They're being given drink to forget the fact they're sitting in tiny, tiny seats and their journey is uncomfortable. And therefore, that's the reaction. It's not happening on all flights. It only happens on some flights.
He says it's also mainly British passengers. They fly to lots of different destinations, and it's the Brits that are the worst. And I think that's a really sad indictment on our drinking culture in this country. And he said it was quite interesting. Not only were these incidents related often to the air cabin staff, but also fights amongst the passengers themselves. But he said it wasn't always the lads' holidays. It's sometimes family members, like dads, having a grab of the bottom of one of the air hostesses. He said it was, you just wouldn't believe the behaviour, he said, that he's been witnessing alcohol-induced on flights.
Well, let's face it, there's no standard on Ryanair flights. So they haven't got any standard for queuing and seating and officialdom and all sorts of meals and not meals, and you've got to pay for everything. And so if you don't treat people with respect, why should they treat you with respect? That's the situation we're at now. So let us know your view there. I mean, travelling through an airport, and airports are awful places. They really are awful places, and how people are crammed onto these flights, and there's no sort of... I mean, I remember days people used to actually dress up to travel on an airplane.
I still have an airport outfit.
Yeah.
I like to look nice.
But now most people will be dressing down, and there is no standard. There's absolutely no standard or procedure for boarding a plane and getting off a plane. No rules in place.
I have to say, the best thing about France is that you can just drive there. You know, you can go in the comfort of your car. There's no queuing at passport control. You literally just get on a train or a ferry or whatever, or anywhere in Europe if you go through France. Can you get to Ireland on a ferry? Is that an easy journey?
Yeah,
no, obviously you can, but I mean, is it an easy...
Well, I mean, the sea's pretty rough most of the time.
And does it take a long time?
Yeah, it does, yeah. But...
you wouldn't be tempted to do that?
No.
No.
But it's, I mean, an airplane, I mean, the quickest you can do London to Belfast, no matter what anyone says, is going to be 4 hours.
Door to door.
You know, people say, oh, it's only an hour away. It's not an hour away. Yeah. You've got to get to the airport, you've got to wait. That's if the flight runs.
Yeah.
The other great thing...
Well, they keep cancelling, Yeah,
the other thing, you basically get a flight first thing in the morning or last thing at night, and they never take off. They're never there. So that's you getting a pickle with that one.
Absolutely.
So what are we doing with... airlines, airplanes, passengers? How are you affected by this? What do you think, by and large, generally? Let us know.
Yes. Meanwhile, we're going to check the forecast. Annie Shuttleworth, you don't need to get a plane anywhere. It's going to be gorgeous here.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GBNews.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Through today, it will feel very warm, if not hot, for some of us. Sunny spells for many north and western areas, but plenty of long-lived sunshine across the east. We've still got the remnants of a weather front from yesterday pushing into the northwest, as well as parts of Wales, southwest England, parts of northern England. That will bring a risk of some rain and showers through the day, but it will tend to fizzle away as the day goes on. So some hazier sunshine, a risk of a chance of rain for north and west western areas. In the east, though, plenty of sunshine. Temperatures climbing as high as 29 degrees in the south and east, but quite widely mid to high 20s for many central and eastern areas of England. A little fresher further north and west. We've got quite brisk winds still across the far north of Scotland and potentially still some quite heavy showers across the Northern Isles, many northern areas of Scotland, in fact, into this evening. I think they will tend to ease as the night goes on, but we've still got that risk across parts of Northern Ireland as well. Northern England staying that much drier as well as Wales, but we've still got the remnants of that weather front I mentioned earlier, bringing cloudier skies to central areas of England. Now, once that weather front does push through overnight, tonight it will turn much fresher. So tonight is going to be a much fresher night than last night. It was quite a mild night last night. So clearer skies developing quite widely across the UK and that cooler air pushing in. Bit of a brisk breeze across the north and west, and further showers will affect western areas of Scotland as well as the Northern Isles. But temperatures in towns and cities in the low teens, but we could be down in single figures rurally across many northern and western areas where we do see the longest lived clear skies. So Thursday looks like another sunny day. It's not going to be quite as warm as today, and across the north and west further showers, but I think the showers will be fewer and further between in Thursday, so many of us will stay relatively dry through the day. In any sunshine, still feeling quite warm, highs of 23 or 24 degrees in the south and east, in the high teens across the north and west. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're just looking at an item in the Times here this morning about the best dressed. They named the 18 best dressed men and women of the whole summer. And I think it's amazing because we were talking about whether you dress up to travel or not. But it's amazing. Pierce Brosnan is one of those named. He's 71 years of age and he's a man who constantly keeps evolving. He could have been typecast as Bond. He's grown a beard now, well-groomed, well-trimmed. Yeah.
I don't like the beard.
Yeah,
but he's very chic. I agree.
He looks very, very well. Michelle Obama is in there. Demi Moore is in there. Sienna Miller is in there. Jennifer Lopez.
And for all the Emily in Paris fans, the woman who plays Sylvie, who's absolutely my hero, Philippine Leroy Bewley, she's in there. She's an icon, looking amazing.
Nice to see Gabby Logan there, and Helen Mirren.
Well, that was at the D-Day event. That was what she wore at the D-Day event in Portsmouth. And there's the Princess of Wales at Wimbledon, looking gorgeous.
Well, it's about consistency, isn't it? With people looking well.
Why aren't we in there?
What? Why aren't we in there? Probably a very good reason. Anyway.
Oh, dear. Well, listen, you're not in there either at home yet, but perhaps 30 grand would set you up. It's our Great British Giveaway, and you've only got a few days left.
Yeah, Friday 5 o'clock, the lines close, and here's how you enter.
It's the final week to see how you could win an incredible £30,000 in cash. It's extra cash that could really make a difference to your coming year. You could find yourself on that holiday you've always wanted to take, buy that treat that always seemed out of reach, or just send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. Time is ticking. Get your entry in now. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
But the lines are opening right after the break with my mate Paul Coit. What have you got in the sport?
Well, I did have the quiz. Have you had to think about it, who that possible female British tennis player could possibly be who's been knocked out of the US Open in the first round that may have won it 3 years ago and has not really done much since? Who could it... let you have a think about it. Let me think about it.
What a cliffhanger.
I know. Who could it be?
Think on that one. We'll tell you right after this short break.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Protest flags are banned at the Proms, the last night of the Proms, as audience members are told that they will be confiscated.
Yes, so the Proms website says flags from prescribed groups and flags related to protest, hatred or advertising will not be allowed in the auditorium. Well, we're joined by royal broadcaster and historian Rafe Heidelman-Koo and the broadcaster and social commentator Eamonn. Rafe, should it only be the Union flag and other flags of our nations that are allowed to be waved at the last night of the Proms?
Well, I certainly think we shouldn't be having any protest flags. You know, it's important to have somewhere in our public life that isn't overtly political. Every other public space seems to have been taken over by politics. And the whole point of the last night of the Proms is to unify the nation. It's not an official event like, you know, the King's birthday, but it's unofficially a chance for us all to actually come together and have a bit of fun about our great history and celebrate all of that.
Mom, what do you think of what Rafe's just said there? Surely we shouldn't have protest flags. The Proms is supposed to unite people.
It is always about unity, but in order to achieve unity, we do have to include all of the different opinions and thoughts. And so when we think of protests, like protest flags, I don't even know what that is. It's just people advocating for what they believe in. Well, I think it's really important to just focus on the first and foremost point, which is that we're talking about classical music here. Let's not act as if this is British, it's European.
You know, if you want to protest, you can just walk outside the Albert Hall, cross the road and go to Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park and have your protest there. The Albert Hall is for classical music.
Everywhere.
It's a treat and it's a great British tradition.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled. Lovely.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
First big cup competition of the football season, the Carabao Cup, got underway last night, and Paul will tell you what happened.
OK, here we go. Everton 3, Doncaster Rovers
0.
Correct. Yeah, see, look, you know, I've been working on this. So Everton are 3, you know, they chipped 7 goals, didn't they, the last 2 games. Fulham, they lost 3-0, Spurs, they lost 4-0, so better for Everton. Leicester 4, Tranmere.
Well, that's definitely a 0.
7. 0, yeah. Leicester 4. Queen's Park Rangers 1, Luton 1. And Queen's Park Rangers went through on penalties. Crystal Palace 4, Norwich City
0.
Yes.
You emphasise it so well, my friend.
I just thought I'd make it more interesting.
Our friend Dino's going to be happy. QPR 3.
He is. He's going to be very happy. So, yeah, good result for them. And Barrow beat Derby County. It's the furthest Barrow have ever been in a competition.
That's a surprise, isn't it?
Yeah. So they beat Derby County. It was 0-0, went through on penalties. So Wolves play Burnley tonight, West Ham and Bournemouth. It's like the Harry Redknapp derby, that one, and Forest and Newcastle. And Sandro Tonali is back. You know Sandro Tonali, the one that was done for gambling?
Yeah.
He is going to be playing, expected back after he's banned for Newcastle tonight.
OK.
Should we do it on tennis? What do you think?
In the tennis? Will Emma Raducanu be back for the US Open?
Yeah, this is a surprise to you, isn't it, that she actually went out in the first round? You expected so much more, I know.
Like, I wish the girl all the best. I mean, you know, she's a wonderful-looking girl, but she's a very less than average player.
Well, I mean, she had... it was 2021 when she won the US Open, and it was almost like the perfect storm, because she never played anybody that was in the top 10, and they were all falling by the wayside as she would go through. I mean, it's an amazing thing that she did. She was 18 years old, but after that, nothing. So she was in the press conference afterwards, and she was asked about it, and I think most of the journalists are thinking, oh, well, there we are, it's, you know, the usual. And there she is there. But she was obviously very upset because she's gone out of the first round, and then said, well, maybe it's I need to rearrange my schedule, and you think, well, it's probably not the schedule. It's just about...
OK, well, let's talk about Katie Bolter, because she did very well, and she's obviously our other British female.
She's through, yes, she's through. So she's done very well. Jack Draper is through, but the one that was really exciting is Dan Evans.
That was a marathon and a half.
It was. It was the longest game ever, or the longest match ever played in the US Open. 5.5 hours it went on. Every set went over an hour against Karen Khachanov of Russia. So he came through. I mean, I went to bed last night, and because with the time difference, and he'd started playing, and by the time I got up, he was just finishing the game.
That is not enough sleep, Paul.
It's either
5.5 hours.
It's either a long tennis game or not enough sleep. It's
a bit of both.
I think it is. I think it is a bit of both. But a very good result for him. And as you say, Katie Bolter and Jack Draper are through also.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah. What do you think about this transfer, though?
Oh, yeah.
This Raheem Sterling thing, Eamon, how do you feel about
OK,
Raheem
so
Sterling?
It may also depend on Jadon Sancho going the other way, going to Chelsea. Okay.
Well, they say it's not a swap deal, that it's the fact that one's going one way, one's going the other way. They are actually working out different deals. But essentially, it is that happening. So Jadon Sancho, who is... You know, he's still persona non grata, isn't he, really, with Erik ten Hag? He's not really got a future at Manchester United. There's Raheem there on the left, there's Jadon there on the right-hand side. So it seems that Jadon Sancho, although he went to Borussia Dortmund, he started there and then he went on loan. Now, it's not going to work out at Manchester United, so it'll probably suit him. But does he want to go to Chelsea, where they've got over 40 players and a load of attacking midfielders? Because he's thinking, well... Yeah, there's chances you're not going to play there either.
But, you know, I do think that Sinclair's a good player. I think he's a very, very good player. But he is in his late 20s.
Yep.
And he's on 300,000 quid a week.
That's right.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of money to spend.
Yeah.
If he goes to Manchester United, he's going to have to take a pay cut. There's no way that they're going to go, well, we'll pay you exactly that. And also, he's got 2 or 3 years left on his contract at Chelsea.
Yeah.
So he could... Essentially, if he wanted to, he could just stay where he is and not play and take the money. But what's the point? I mean, of course, loads of money, but he's got plenty of money anyway. So, and Raheem Sterling has also said, I mean, weirdly, he said this when he was a Manchester City player, that he grew up as a United fan. He had the United shirt, so he's a big fan. And then, you know, I always wonder whether when you're a professional, if you support a club as a kid, and it's always your dream to play for them, does that disappear when you're a pro, finally, or do you still always have that thing, I would love to play for that club as a child?
I think it has to disappear. I think
you think so?
Well, to a degree. I mean, but it'll always be maybe your ambition.
Yeah, but your dad would still support your childhood team, wouldn't he? And so then there'd be that conflict. I think it's always there, probably.
See, I know players. I mean, there was a player that played for Spurs, I think it was, and I remember speaking to his parents, and he grew up a Chelsea fan, and I spoke to his parents, and I said, "Oh, you're a Chelsea fan?" He goes, "Yeah, but don't say anything." Yeah. But staunch Chelsea fans. But when it's your son, then obviously you want him to do well. So I said, "Well, what happens when Spurs are playing Chelsea?" And he's going, "Well, obviously I want him to do well. I want the other side to win." Icons
from certain teams in the Premier League. One guy in particular. And he told me he would have walked over broken glass, was his phrase, to sign for Manchester United.
Right.
But he would never say that in public. He never says
So
that.
who did he play for?
No, I'm not going to tell you.
You're not going to tell me?
I'm not going to tell you that. But
it's not. I mean, it's really. I'm not going to know.
He's very prominent. This guy's a legend, like absolute.
So current or old?
Older.
Animal, vegetable, or mineral. so older. So, and he said that was his.
But what I'm saying is,
was he good enough to play for Manchester United?
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah. So he was that great,
So
but he never came in.
Why did he never get the call? Surely you know people who know people.
Yeah, but
he would have crawled over broken glass and he was good enough.
Yeah.
No, he wanted to play for United. That doesn't mean United wanted to sign him.
He was good enough.
Oh, I see. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But he said he would have walked over broken glass. But it's interesting because he is an icon of this other club.
Listen, we're playing guessing games. I told you Raducanu. Surely you can, because that was a really tricky one to guess. to guess who else that was. I'll tell you the other one is Ivan Toney. Now, Ivan Toney at Brentford. It seemed that when he was at Brentford, he was going to be for sale. Everybody was going to jump in and go, 100 million. Nobody seems to really want him. So it looks like Al Ahly from Saudi Arabia. The deal is done, personal terms, but now, guess who's in for him? Oh, it's Chelsea again, because they don't really have enough players.
But has the deal been done in Saudi Arabia?
It's been verbally agreed, I believe.
Right.
But now Chelsea have stepped in and said, oh, we'd be interested here. You know, they just want to buy anybody. And it seems to be going again. They're trying to get rid of people, not buy more people.
You don't want to be a player in Saudi Arabia. I mean, you take the money, yes.
That's the thing. 28 years old, he's playing for England. Do you actually really want to go to Saudi Arabia? Because you know that once you go, you're making the deal with the devil. No offence to Saudi Arabia, you know what I'm saying? It's big money there. You're actually going for the money. You're not going... And so anybody that goes over there going, oh, yeah, but it's a really growing league and it's very exciting... It's a load of cobblers, isn't it? I mean, it's just there for the money. That's the reason you're going to go.
That's a bit like you here, isn't it?
It's, you know what? Well, no, what I was going to say, that's why I'm going to start working for Saudi Arabia News and doing the sport there.
Are we going to talk about Paralympics? Because it's the opening ceremony today.
Yeah, we'll do. I think
Olympic feeling back.
Yeah, we'll do more. We'll do more after 7. But yeah, the Olympic. They've got the opening ceremony. They're expecting 2 million people for the opening ceremony, but they're not going to do it on the Seine this time.
Okay.
But they are going to do it through the city, all the major landmarks. So I like the fact the opening ceremony was through the city. There were some very strange elements, of course, of the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games.
It was very damp.
It was damp, but it was a bit weird.
What's the forecast in Paris today? A bit better?
Yeah, I think it is better. I think it is slightly better. But anyway, all opens tonight, and then we've got that to look forward to.
I can't wait.
OK, the newspaper review opens right after this short break, and we're going to be back with that next. Thanks, Paul.
Pleasure.
The latest GB News travel.
Hello, good morning. I'm Andy Hilbert with the latest on the roads across the UK this Wednesday morning. In Kent, the coastbound M20, that speed restriction due to Operation Brock. Junction 8 for Leeds Castle and the Maidstone services to Junction 9 at Ashford. M62 eastbound at the moment in East Yorkshire. We've got traffic temporarily being held because of an accident. Junction 37 at Howden to Junction 38 at North Cave. And also as well at the moment too in Gloucestershire on the A419 in the Frampton Mantle area. It's all now open. There was an accident and debris on the road there. That was affecting you from Cirencester Road to Emerson Lane, of course, and also to in Stirling in Ashfield, the A9 South, all now open following an earlier accident from the Dunblane turn-off round to the M9 at Junction 11. That was obviously causing some issues there, but the road all now open this Wednesday morning. Europe Today.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight, every night from 11 p.m.
Bad news for Liberal mothers who want to score virtue points by transitioning their kids, Lewis.
You know, this
tell us what it is.
Is a California dad is granted full custody of 4-year-old son after boy's mom tried to raise the child non-binary.
It's almost like cult-like behaviour. You've got the mother transitioning and then the transitioning the son as well. It's interesting that, you know, it's almost like a religion. You get, you know, if you're a Christian, your kids are probably going to be Christian. If you're, you know, Hindu, your kids are probably going to be Hindu. And if you're transgender, your kids are probably going to be transgender.
There's absolutely a causation there. We see plenty of times in videos. This is exactly it. And also we see the children of celebrities and people in particularly sort of liberal environments. It doesn't happen in some village in Indonesia or whatever. Yeah. Anyway, so there's no such thing as a trans child. There's no such thing as non-binary. What there is are people with mental health issues and parents who want a virtual signal and also want to brainwash their children. This is an egregious example of that, where she was basically taking him to Disneyland, but he couldn't get on a ride unless he wore princess shoes. I mean, really evil, horrible stuff. You know, forced to wear a dress on his birthday. Just really nasty stuff. Now, here's the thing. You talk about the court going to him. No, that's not what happened. He took 800 pages of documentary evidence. He took 8 hours of police body camera footage showing this mental behaviour from the mother. And guess what? The courts ruled that the mum got him. They ruled against him. The only reason that he got custody of his child is because, thank God, a child protective services officer randomly got involved, looked into it themselves, and that's how he eventually got custody of the child.
Okay,
so the courts in America are utterly captured.
GB News, the People's Channel.
So here's a question. What could Harry and William learn from Noel and Liam? Well, here to tell us, we've got Paula London and Emma Wolfe. Paula, what do you think?
Well, I mean, they're saying that two well-known brothers have been estranged and now they're moving forward with opposite strategies. The only reason the Gallaghers are getting back together is for monetary gain, that's all.
And that sounds like Harry's cup of tea.
Well, no, I mean, William doesn't need to get back with Harry, and in an ideal world, you'll always be close to family members, but not everyone is. I mean, I'm not. So sometimes you just can't be. And as I say, if it wasn't for money, Liam wouldn't be getting back with Noel. But they could make millions from their concerts. A lot of people are going to be flying here from abroad. But then I'm sure they'll be estranged straight afterwards. Or maybe they're not even that close now. They're just doing it for money, and then they'll stop talking again. So...
it's a big thing. It's a big thing, you know, not to speak to someone for 15 years or so and then be expected just to pick up and tour for a year.
Families are difficult things, though. Families fall out, and it's painful for the parents to see siblings not speaking, and there's so much more complicated stuff going on behind the scenes. Yes, everybody's saying the Gallagher brothers had got back together for monetary reasons.
Yeah.
You know, look at Harry and William. I think some of the stuff, well, a lot of the stuff that Harry said in Spare is almost unforgivable. But is it unforgivable? It's something that we can't really know about. Harry, at the moment, is in a phase where he's living on the West Coast and whatever. But let's hope that in time they are able to come back together, because they were close. You know, William and Harry were close as
they were
boys.
close, but they weren't inseparable. I mean, they've always had their own sets of friends. So.
You can see in both sets of brothers which one's the difficult one, can't you? And it's just how much rein you give them, basically, whether you just let them be or whether you try and tell them to behave and what you can tolerate. Because presumably Noel was just tolerating it for a while, and then he was like, I don't need this in my life. And the same with William. He was like, you know, Harry's the fun one, but until the point he crossed a line.
But it's interesting, the overall point is there something to learn from what the Gallaghers are doing?
Not really, because they're only doing it for money.
Yeah, exactly.
William doesn't need the money, does he?
OK. Keir Starmer is in Berlin. What do we think here, Paula, about the deal that he may be trying to do with Germany?
I think it's a good idea, because a closer relationship could really help trade with this country and obviously other countries in Europe, and also internationally as well, because since Brexit, a lot of countries are not very happy with us. It's not just in Europe. So I think it's a good thing. Obviously, we have to understand and respect democracy, so we're not going to have another referendum. But it could definitely help us, 100%. A lot of companies now have got to spend so much extra money. There's so much bureaucracy because of Brexit. It can only aid us, I think, at the moment.
Emma?
Yeah, I think he needs to be very careful, though. I think if there's any whiff, and there has been in the papers in recent weeks, a talk of, you know, youth mobility schemes and sort of watering down some of the things that people voted for, I think he needs to be really careful that there isn't a sense of betrayal, Brexit betrayal.
What would be the betrayal of a youth mobility scheme?
Well, the fact that we voted to end, some people voted to end free movement.
No one's talking about free movement. They're talking about a youth mobility scheme, which maximum 3 years for under 30
Well, that's
I just don't understand what the drawback is.
No, but that's just semantic. No, I agree with you, and I think that young people anyway should be free to move within countries and things like that. But we've had so many problems over immigration and uncontrolled borders and all of that I think people are hypersensitive to this at the moment. And we all know what the stance, you know, broadly on the left was. So I just think Starmer needs to be really, really careful here, because it's been such a rupture in our country for the last, 7 years. And to reopen that, as Paula says, would be a mistake.
What about the tax alert that he issued yesterday, Emma, during the speech in the Rose Garden? How many times the word painful was used? Not very exciting.
I genuinely think that some people are feeling right on the edge right now of what they can actually cope with. This line, not things can only get better, but basically things will get worse. You know, that guarantee from him, I think it's a gamble. I think it's, you know, this £22 billion black hole that they've suddenly discovered is... well, they should have known about that in advance. What he was saying yesterday was that things like capital gains tax and inheritance tax, you know, they're going to be looked at basically
and
in the
private pensions. Some talk of as well.
And Starmer's been talking a lot about those with the broadest shoulders should bear the heaviest burden. Well, I think we can all agree, yes, for non-doms. But why on earth are pensioners and people who have, exactly as you say, private pensions? How are they the ones with the broadest shoulders? There is pain coming. There is pain coming for the October budget.
So, I mean, we knew it was going to be be a
Well,
disaster.
except don't forget the left hate him as well, which is an important thing
There's
to
plenty
remember.
of wealthy people
warn them, yeah.
Left, yeah.
And there has been a scramble overnight to sell up, for landlords starting to look into getting rid of their property now because of this worry that the top rate of capital gains tax could go from 20 to 45%. So how does that encourage investment? How does that encourage...
I mean, the tax burden in this country is deplorable. And you don't even know the half of it, you know, what they come after you from a stealth point of view as well, which we don't hear publicly. But I think anything you earn because of the sweat of your brow and physically do, those people should not be taxed. It's the people who get invisible earnings, residual stuff that comes in while they're sleeping or whether they're on holiday and whatever. That's the sort of thing that should be
But then
taxed.
how would you class property? How do you
residual.
deal with things like capital gains tax or an elderly pensioner who lives in a big house, which, by the way, they can't heat anymore, that is worth a lot?
If it was rented out as a business, then I think you've got to be taxed on it. But if it's just theirs to own, then it shouldn't be touched.
Yeah, there are lots of private landlords who have worked and worked and worked to buy another house, to rent out, who are now getting totally spooked by this. And also, I think it puts off, in general, the idea of business and investment, which is what we're trying to encourage.
Yeah. Well, a lot of wealthy people are moving to Dubai, you know, so like about 30, they pay about 30% of all the tax, the top 1%. And we're not offering a lot to people. We used to have like great shopping, great restaurants, great tourist attractions. Now we have knife crime every day. So a lot of wealthy people would rather be in Dubai. There's no tax.
My husband works in finance and he says half of his sector is now moving to the UAE.
Yeah, it's very unsafe, especially for children.
And a lot of people, don't you just know now, for the first time, people that we all know are saying, I don't really want to, you know, I am actually thinking about moving. And that's, you know, really, really sad.
There was a letter in the Telegraph in the last couple of days from a sister, a senior sister on an A&E ward, who also said, I am paid half of what a train driver is paid, and they've just been awarded a 15% pay rise. There's something wrong.
And this is the problem,
that with no strings attached.
It seems a lot of corruption is going to happen in this country, and that really annoys people.
In our A&E departments, senior nurses that didn't get a pay deal that they were happy with. I don't know.
Well, people, you know, as you said, there are a lot of people on the edge. I absolutely agree with you. Cost of living, food prices, holiday prices, travel.
And the state of the public services. It's not just that you're paying and paying and paying. It's when you look around, you see your town centre, everything's closing down. You can't get an appointment. You can't get your kids into the schools.
Right, so that then brings us, if we were running the country, what would we do? I agree with you. I think the infrastructure is awful. And it's been let go to hell. But if you haven't got the money to spend on it again, take the black hole of 22 billion.
Well, alleged. I don't even know if there is a black hole with that.
That's disputed, isn't it? Because it's been, you know, as low as 10 and as high as 80. I think it's about...
Starmer was saying the OBR had come out with this £5 billion more public borrowing than expected, so he saw that as evidence.
Yeah, and they all had shadow ministers. They said the manifesto was fully costed. It can't be both.
Yeah,
what is it?
It can't be both. And also, what is it, 11-point-something billion on foreign aid? So I'm not saying that's wrong, but we are making choices.
Well, it is wrong because when we give foreign aid, it's supposed to help these countries, but we've still got loads of people still coming over to claim asylum. So why are we doing both?
Well, that's a very good question. And if we were to say here today, why are we paying foreign aid? I think most people would say, beats me. Why are we doing it? And it's a thing that politicians are into, foreign aid. Members of the public are not into it.
Yeah, they're into it for international relations, I guess, for trade and things like that. Well, but it doesn't benefit us.
I wouldn't mind bad relations. I'd do a Gallagher thing or a...
And there are some valid questions about some of the countries that we give a lot of... I mean, Sudan was recently in the headlines, who voted for independence. You know, you have to say... It's
China
not that,
as well, crazy.
But Brits are incredibly generous when it comes to individual giving. We're incredibly welcoming, I think, to a lot of people. But when times are tough, to see pensioners suffering, for example, I know I keep saying pensioners, to see them suffering when we are still able to fund foreign aid to the tune of billions, that's not on. And those are the tough choices that I think
lots of people are questioning. Even worse when you know they're giving money to other people in other countries. It's just awful what's going on. We're being gaslit, and I think that's what's annoying a lot of people in this country.
Now, we talk about tough things. It doesn't come any tougher than 30 marathons in 30 days run over sand. And we salute this morning Spencer Matthews, reality TV star at one stage. What do we think about him, Paula?
I think it's absolutely amazing what he's done, and he's actually raised £340,000 for charity, which is excellent. I do actually worry, though, that he's stopping one addiction to another, because that often happens. Obviously, he's a self-confessed addict. Now, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's an exercise addict. You know, he lost 20 pounds in the desert. He ran 30 marathons in the Middle East? So I think he's, you know, obviously switched one addiction to the other. Obviously, this one is better, but it's still an addiction. But he mainly did it because he wanted to remember his late brother, because his addiction runs in families a lot. His late brother lost his life when he was declining from Mount Everest, when he was just in his early 20s. So he's done that in his honour. But, as I say, I still think this is an addiction.
I think a lot of elite athletes are probably addicted to exercise in some form. I don't think we should take away from this being an
Oh, no, I'm not taking away, but,
and, you know, it's only a certain type of person that could actually do this. And I've been
what an addict.
This is astonishing.
It's not only the actual marathons, it's been the downtime in between. And he said he just wasn't prepared for the fact that not only was there no respite from the heat, but he was just bored out of his mind on a mat in a cave.
Away from his family.
786 miles.
Little tent where you would have to eat, and it's like a furnace, absolute furnace inside. There's no question. He says he's swapped, you know, alcohol addiction for running addiction.
Oh, did he say
Loads
that?
of people get hooked on exercise. But yeah, the mental strength. I know people that have run marathons. You're broken the day after a marathon. You're broken. He's done 30 in 30 days.
26.2 miles.
Every day,
Every day
in
for
this
30
heat,
days.
The heat is
incredible. We salute you, Spencer.
Yeah, well done. Amazing.
I mean, it is great.
Congratulations on that.
Now that would tackle obesity in the NHS.
Sure would.
Can we talk about ketchup? Because I don't know if anyone here dabbles in a posh ketchup. And if so, what makes it posh? And whether it is the definition of true happiness, because that's been claimed in the Star today.
Well, it's more about what would you do? Would you tell people if you won the lottery? What would you do if you won the lottery? And what's lovely about this is most Brits say if they won the lottery, they would upgrade. So they'd start shopping posh, basically. They would start buying posh-branded, posh stuff, like they would start going to M&S and Waitrose rather than buying the own brand supermarket stuff, which is really sweet because, you know, it's not kind of... They wouldn't leave the country or buy...
I'd always have crumpets with Dairy Lee. I've had that since I was a child. It wouldn't matter how rich I was. I love it.
Yeah, so. Everybody has their own favourite, like, cheeky brands, which actually taste better. But, yeah, the idea of posh ketchup...
Though. We've got one at home. We've got the normal one in the fridge, which we use, and then we've got one in a little jar. I think it was probably in a hamper or something, which has got truffle.
And is it nicer?
In it. I think so. I really don't like having a big tube on the kitchen table, so I don't mind having...
Well, I like Heinz. I mean, these days, that could be posh because people are having their own brand supermarket ones that are very cheap and sometimes not very nice.
You see, I'm not sure that is posh or just people with who are discerning good tastes and good cooks and things. I mean, we get branded ketchup, which is not Heinz, quite a lot of the time. But I couldn't tell you what any of them are called.
Couldn't tell the difference. No,
I just said they're in different bottles and things, but I don't know the brand name.
I agree, and I don't think it's about price necessarily, because all these kind of the discount supermarkets like Aldi and Lidl now are coming out and doing olives and olive oil and all the posh stuff, all Serrano ham and whatever, and it's cheaper. And people are saying, "Oh, it's actually really, really tasty." It's
Can be
Europe.
nice, Well, I remember buying a HP sauce once that wasn't HP, and it was awful from a supermarket. So sometimes they can be really bad.
I think it does matter when you come to fizzy drinks. I'm not going to mention the red name, but when you try and get a cheap supermarket version of the classic American pop drink, soda drink, you can't really go.
I can't
really go for another brand on that.
I need to get out more, but I once watched a documentary about cereals and how actually the supermarket own brand cereal was made in the same factory as the branded one, and it was half the price. And after that, I always just buy the.
I tell you one thing that does make a difference is bread. When you go to an artisan bakery, they're all over where I live, and it's scandalous. You pay sort of
£8 or something.
£8 for a loaf of sourdough, but oh boy, you could eat the entire thing.
No, that's it for me, sourdough.
You hate it,
Sour
don't you?
and dough.
Oh, that's lovely. There's tomato one as well. It's really nice.
Yeah, you've got to toast it or fry it.
Guys, thanks very much indeed. Paul and Emma will be back in about 45 minutes' time. Right now, we're going to bring you a weather update. We've got Annie Shuttleworth on duty reporting that today.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Through today, it will feel very warm, if not hot for some of us. Sunny spells for many north and western areas, but plenty of long-lived sunshine across the east. We've still got the remnants of a weather front from yesterday pushing into the northwest, as well as parts of Wales, southwest England, parts of northern England. That will bring a risk of some rain and showers through the day, but it will tend to fizzle away as the day goes on. So some hazier sunshine, a risk of a chance of rain for north and western areas. In the east, though, plenty of sunshine, temperatures climbing as high as 29 degrees in the south and east, but quite widely mid to high 20s for many central and eastern areas of England. A little fresher further north and west. We've got quite brisk winds still across the far north of Scotland and potentially still some quite heavy showers across the Northern Isles, many northern areas of Scotland, in fact, into this evening. I think they will tend to ease as the night goes on, but we've still got that risk across parts of Northern Ireland as well. Northern England staying that much drier as well as Wales, but we've still got the remnants of that weather front I mentioned earlier, bringing cloudier skies to central areas of England. Now, once that weather front does push through overnight, tonight it will turn much fresher. So tonight is going to be a much fresher night than last night. It was quite a mild night last night. So clearer skies developing quite widely across the UK and that cooler air pushing in. Bit of a brisk breeze across the north and west, and further showers will affect western areas of Scotland as well as the Northern Isles. But temperatures in towns and cities in the low teens, but we could be down in single figures rurally across many northern and western areas where we do see the longest lived clear skies. So Thursday looks like another sunny day. It's not going to be quite as warm as today, and across the north and west further showers, but I think the showers will be fewer and further between in Thursday, so many of us will stay relatively dry through the day. In any sunshine, still feeling quite warm, highs of 23 or 24 degrees in the south and east, in the high teens across the north and west. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Hello, good morning. I'm Andy Hilbert with the latest on the roads across the UK for a Wednesday morning. The eastbound M62 in East Yorkshire partially blocked. It's an accident from junction 37 at Howden to junction 38 at North Cave. In Kent, the coastbound M20, we've got a speed restriction in place due to Operation Brock. Junction 8 for Leeds Castle and the Maidstone services to junction 9 at Ashford. And in Argyll and Butte on the A83, that's closed due to recovery work at the minute around Canacraig, round to Clan. That's going to affect you, of course. Traffic at the moment on the M6 in Cheshire affected northbound. The slip road to Sandbach services is closed due to an accident at the minute. That will affect you there. And in London and East Ham, Barking Road is all now clear following the accident which happened there around St Olave's Road, of course, too. Everything else at the minute not doing too badly this Wednesday morning across the UK. You're up to date.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could win an incredible £30,000 in cash. And you could be getting that winning call from us to tell you that you're our next Great British Giveaway winner.
Oh, I can't believe this.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
That is absolutely fantastic.
We're over the moon.
I've never won anything like this in my life.
Oh, you shocked me. I never won a penny in my life.
If I was there, I'd buy you a drink.
Get your entry in now for another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash. Text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2 or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Is Starmer set to bring us closer to the European Union?
Well, the Prime Minister begins a visit to Germany today with the aim to start negotiations on a new treaty.
He wants to boost trade, deepen defence, cooperation and increase joint action on illegal migration.
Now, this comes as the Conservatives warn nothing will be safe, as Sir Keir could be plotting a tax raid on middle classes as he faces criticism on watered-down election promises.
Prison panic. The Ministry of Justice confirms only 100 spaces are left in male prisons in England and Wales.
Tough times for Meghan Markle. Reports she is struggling to find a CEO for her new business venture after 18 staff quit.
And artificial intelligence is to help teachers mark homework under new government plans. So we're asking, is it time for teachers to embrace the technology?
And in the sport, I'll do it sympathetically, poor Emma Raducanu is out of the US Open in the first round. As a surprise, whilst Dan Evans plays the longest match in the tournament's history as he goes through. In the Carabao Cup, another surprise, Everton win a game 3-0, but it was against Doncaster Rovers with respect. And the Paralympics opening ceremony is tonight.
Good morning, and quite a warm day to come for some of us, but will that warm weather last until the weekend? We can find out with me a little later on.
1 minute after 7 o'clock, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster, and this is GB News Breakfast. So the Prime Minister has said his trip to Germany is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to reset our relationship with Europe.
Sir Keir Starmer is in the country for 2 days. He's got meetings in Berlin and Paris. He will meet the German Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, to launch negotiations on a treaty which hopes to boost business and increase joint action on illegal migration.
Well, it comes as the Prime Minister's under fire for his warning yesterday on the tax raid on middle-class families ahead of what he described will be a painful autumn budget.
We're joined now by Labour Party member and political commentator Andy Williams. Good to see you, Andy. What do you think of what he's trying to do here in Germany?
Well, I think it's really refreshing to see a Prime Minister making the effort to build relationships with our European allies because, you know, post-Brexit, that's 8 years ago, more than 8 years since the referendum. And if you look at the major challenges that Britain and other countries in Europe face on defence, on energy, trade, the economy, we need to have close ties to our European counterparts. And
what would you say, though, to people who would say this is a betrayal of the Brexit vote?
Well, I don't think anyone or very few people who voted for Brexit were voting for us to have no relationship whatsoever with countries like Germany and France. You know, they're very, very nearby geographically, and our economy and the success of our economy, and not just our economy, our culture, all of those things rely on having strong relationships with those countries, and I think that's a really good thing.
In the not too distant past, we had a Prime Minister who's questioning whether or not France was a friend or a foe, which just shows how far we've moved in the last year or so. But I suppose the question that you could be asking this morning is, A, what will Germany be getting in response from us for this deal? And also, what will Brussels and the EU feel about a direct treaty between a member state and Britain, excluding the rest of the European Union? Might they be concerned about that as well?
Well, I think it's as much as in Germany's interest to have a strong relationship with the UK as vice versa. Well, I mean, I think it is. If you look at the reaction of one of the reasons that the Brexit process was so torturous and difficult is because they were gutted that we left the EU, because actually we were a really strong member state. And so they do want closer ties with Britain, and that's what Starmer's promising. Now, some people who voted for Brexit might not like that, but the reality is that the sort of difficult relationship that we've had over the past 8 years hasn't served Britain well at all. And so I think this is really encouraging.
Andy, just hang on there, because I want to go over to Berlin and bring in our political editor, Christopher Hope, who is accompanying the Prime Minister on this trip. Chris, good morning to you. What is he trying to do there? When's he going to do it?
Morning, Eamonn. Morning, Isabel. Yeah, morning from Berlin, a very warm Berlin. Sir Keir Starmer is here, arrived last night. Today he meets Olaf Scholz. There'll be a press conference. They'll start off talks about this treaty built on an idea which a treaty the UK signed back in 2010, the Lancaster House Treaty. This idea is that Keir Starmer collects treaties with other EU member states during his first 5 years in government to construct a deeper trading relationship with elements with countries on the continent. It is quite a big deal what they're doing here. It's a reset with Europe, we're told by Number 10 Downing Street. It's going to boost business, trade, deepen defence and security, and increase action on illegal migration. We are a sovereign country. They're not touching the customs union or single market, but Brexiteers are going to say, is this reversing Brexit in all but name? Are we going to be so tied together with German interests in the European Union that we can't act freely as a sovereign nation? And that is a question which Sir Keir Starmer knows he's walking straight into, but he did so knowingly. He did fight that election last month, saying very clearly that he fought the election very clearly, saying that he wanted to reset the relationship with Europe and make sure that it wasn't going to be one where we're battling with our EU neighbours.
Possible, do you think, in your experience, Christopher, speaking to a lot of people having your ear to the ground, that there are people who are deeply committed to Brexit and remain Brexiteers, but who feel that actually it isn't quite what they hoped it would be, and that this could be the best of both worlds, that this could actually be a good thing?
Yes, of course, that's right. I mean, I think that the crucial thing here is that Keir Starmer is not touching the issue of sovereignty, that the customs union and single market is not going to be touched, he says. But I think it might mean that by the time we get to the end of these 5 years, we're so tied into the interests of the European Union that we have lost our sovereignty in some way. So that's the worry, but I think he's hiding behind the fact we're not going to renegotiate the single market or customs union.
What's on the table? What's in this for Germany? Because I know they're quite interested in being able to get some of their youngsters to come and live and work in the UK for a few years. Is that likely to happen?
Yeah. That's unlikely. I mean, freedom of movement, Isabel, is something which is sacrosanct within the European Union. There are claims there might be an attempt to try and allow under 30s to travel to the UK and back to the EU, but they can't go near freedom of movement. That's one of the key parts of the European Union agreements. But this idea of a deal just with Germany is something which I think could be a good thing. I've got. Isabel, Eamonn, we're being moved on by security here, so I better go now. But it's been great to talk to you. I'll see you in the next hour.
All right. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Christopher. Thank you. So, Andy, this could be mutually beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think if you're a Brexiteer and you really believed that leaving the European Union was going to benefit our economy and, limit migration, for whatever reason you voted for Brexit, very few. There's no evidence really that any of those things have materialised. I mean, migration is higher than ever. The economy's in the doldrums. So I think building strong relationships with Germany, with France, and other major European powers is absolutely in our interest.
What about this speech yesterday? Lots of people talking about Starmer's personal popularity, but to be perfectly frank, that's the least of our worries. Most people are thinking, I am just about on the edge of coping, working all the hours that God sends. I know my energy bills are going to go up this winter from a pension. I'll be very, very upset about that. And now the clearest sign yet, really, that we're going to see a tax rise in the budget.
It's really gloomy. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And I in some ways, I think it's good to see a Prime Minister being honest with people about what's to come. It might not be good news, but he's being frank about what's to come. Now, Labour have said, and they committed in the election, to not raising income tax, VAT, national insurance. So I think for people for most people, the vast majority of people, they're not not going to see tax rises.
It's a bit of a bugbear of mine. It really annoys me because they're not doing anything about the tax threshold, so everybody will be paying more taxes, and that was
that's undoubtedly
something that they aren't honest with people about.
That is undoubtedly true. And that's something that that was a trick, if you like, that the last Conservative government used time and time again, and dragging more people into tax. And I think the reality is, I think we're going to see the same again. Yeah.
OK, Andy Williams, thank you very much indeed. Your views very welcome. Get in touch and have your say.
Let's take a look though. Now it's 7:09. Some of the other stories coming into the newsstream.
Liz Truss considered scrapping all NHS cancer treatment after crashing the economy. This is in a bombshell new book by Sir Anthony Selden. He states that in the immediate aftermath of her mini-budget, she launched a desperate attempt to find spending cuts in an effort to restore stock market confidence.
Let us know what you think about this story. The Ryanair chief executive Michael O'Leary has called for alcohol limits of 2 drinks per journey in airports to tackle a rise in disorder on his flights. He's told the Daily Telegraph that violent outbursts are occurring weekly, with alcohol especially when mixed with other substances.
Top doctors have called for a total ban on disposable e-cigarettes and all flavours apart from tobacco. The British Medical Association is urging ministers to take bold and brave actions to protect the health of children and young people amid a vaping epidemic. So you think it's going to be a good day today?
I think it's going to be a gorgeous day. Someone said to me, "How was your summer?" I said, "I'm not ready to talk in past tense yet. As far as I'm concerned, it's still the summer."
OK, and today might be a very good day. Here's Annie Shuttleworth.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Through today, it will feel very warm, if not hot, for some of us. Sunny spells for many north and western areas, but plenty of long-lived sunshine across the east. We've still got the remnants of a weather front from yesterday pushing into the northwest, as well as parts of Wales, southwest England, parts of northern England. That will bring a risk of some rain and showers through the day, but it will tend to fizzle away as the day goes on. So some hazier sunshine, a risk of a chance of rain for north and western areas. In the east, though, plenty of sunshine. Temperatures climbing as high as 29 degrees in the south and east, but quite widely mid to high 20s for many central and eastern areas of England. A little fresher further north and west. We've got quite brisk winds still across the far north of Scotland, and potentially still some quite heavy showers across the Northern Isles, many northern areas of Scotland, in fact, into this evening. I think they will tend to ease as the night goes on, but we've still got that risk across parts of Northern Ireland as well. Northern England staying that much drier as well as Wales, but we've still got the remnants of that weather front I mentioned earlier, bringing cloudier skies to central areas of England. Now, once that weather front does push through overnight, tonight it will turn much fresher. So tonight is going to be a much fresher night than last night. It was quite a mild night last night. So clearer skies developing quite widely across the UK and that cooler air pushing in. Bit of a brisk breeze across the north and west, and further showers will affect western areas of Scotland as well as the Northern Isles. But temperatures in towns and cities in the low teens, but we could be down in single figures rurally across many northern and western areas where we do see the longest lived clear skies. So Thursday looks like another sunny day. It's not going to be quite as warm as today, and across the north and west further showers, but I think the showers will be fewer and further between in Thursday, so many of us will stay relatively dry through the day. In any sunshine, still feeling quite warm, highs of 23 or 24 degrees in the south and east, in the high teens across the north and west. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're going to talk now about a petition. The petition with 135,000 signatures has been handed into Downing Street, and what it's doing is calling for better screening for prostate cancer.
It's hard to believe, actually, but at the moment, there actually is no official national screening programme, and it's led to a huge disparity between early detection in areas like London and Scotland.
Well, this is the second leading cause of cancer deaths amongst men and disproportionately affects older men, those with a family history and people from deprived areas. Now, in the studio with is GP health writer Mike Kirby and David James from Prostate Cancer Research. Gentlemen, however laudable, never necessary, and whatever this is, I put it to you day after day, we have governments, it doesn't matter if it's the last one or this one, telling us that the country is broke, right? There's no money for anything. What's your chances of getting this screening programme off the ground?
Well, at the moment, we're suggesting a targeted screening approach. So it's those at the highest risk, people with a family history, people in deprived areas, and also black men, because if you're black, you have a 1 chance in 4 of developing prostate cancer, compared to a white man who has 1 chance in 8.
So it's not, we would often, David, be guided towards the fact that prostate cancer is a result of getting older, age.
There is certainly a link to age, but there are many other factors as well that cause a higher risk of prostate cancer and also increase your risk of dying of the disease. And to your point, we're working on an economic model to show that we actually think that prostate cancer screening, particularly in high-risk groups, can save this country money. So we think there's not only a moral case to be made for saving people's lives, but actually we can save the country money in the long term.
Tell us a little bit about this disparity that people in London have much better outcomes than they do in Scotland, for example, and why you think that this petition to Downing Street really needs the attention of our politicians today.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're diagnosed in Scotland, there's a high chance, probably about 1 in 3, that you'll be diagnosed late when it's incurable. There are about 5 or 6 times higher rate of metastatic disease at first diagnosis in the north and Scotland than there is in parts of the south.
What do you mean by metastatic disease?
I'm sorry. So that means when it's been diagnosed and it's already spread outside the prostate. So at that point, it's incurable.
Okay.
So then your survival rates plummet. Whereas if it's caught early, it's almost always survivable.
So, Mike, from your point of view as a GP, and you're now the current editor of Trends in Urology and Men's Health, you've been around a long time. You've studied this a long time. Yes. What developments have you seen in this field over 30-odd years?
Well, I think it's absolutely amazing that we are doing so much better now. I mean, I got interested in this when a 42-year-old came into my clinic with back pain, with metastatic advanced prostate cancer, and he was dead in 6 months. Now, with modern treatments, even if you present with metastatic disease, you can live up to 10 years. So, yeah, we've made huge strides. And also, we do much less harm now because with MRI scanning, we can see exactly where the tumour is and we can target the biopsy to that.
Yeah. Why are men so susceptible to it going wrong in their prostate?
Well, it's 60% of the risk is genetic, which is why it's really important if you've got a father or a brother with the disease that you get your PSA checked. Also, if you've got the wrong genes, for example, the BRCA2 gene, then if you've got a family history of breast cancer or ovarian cancer, that also increases the risk of the man in the family
I did not know that.
Developing prostate cancer.
Gosh, that's really interesting.
So, we can target people. We can go to GP registers and find those with breast cancer, ovarian cancer, look at the family and ask the men, have you had your PSA test done?
If there was a screening programme brought in, would it be MRI tests for people of a certain age, or what would it involve? Because, again, we know, and I don't want to generalise, I'm the only woman here, but men generally don't necessarily want to go and see their doctors, and if it's an invasive procedure, that can be putting off, as well, a deterrent. So what would it involve, and what sort of age would the screening programme target?
Of course. So typically at the moment, you see a PSA test, which is a simple blood test, and then if there's a risk kind of shown there, then the typical next stage is an MRI scan. If the MRI scan, again, is showing that there's a risk of prostate cancer, you then go to a biopsy. So that's the sort of typical...
And what age would the blood tests be from?
So from 50 onwards at the moment, but there's also talk about for certain high-risk groups, maybe bring it down to 45 as well.
Okay.
And if anything goes wrong with your prostate and you were to lose your prostate, what does... Just explain to people, especially women, what a prostate actually does. What is it responsible for, Mike?
Well, it produces fluid, which is part of the ejaculate, so it's very important for sexual function.
Yeah.
And PSA, the test, there should be no PSA in the blood at all, because actually it's a protease enzyme that liquefies the ejaculate It's meant to be in the semen, it's not meant to be in the blood. So if you've got PSA in your blood, it just tells you there's something wrong with your prostate. Doesn't guarantee prostate cancer, because benign enlargement of the prostate will also put the PSA up, which is why there's been such an argument about this, that it's you can have a false positive.
Yeah, and I'm always conscious it's breakfast time. Obviously really important to talk about these things, but I don't want to put people off their breakfast. But are there things that people should be looking out for? And again, not too much specifics, but I mean, this might be completely incorrect, but again, good to dispel myths if it's not. I was always told if you see a man walking a particular way, sort of bent forward, that there might be a prostate problem there. Is that true? Is there any truth in that? If anyone's worried, what would possible symptoms be?
Yeah, absolutely.
PG version.
Absolutely. So really, when it comes to going to the toilet, I'm talking sort of number one. People struggling, maybe frequency increasing. Those are often symptoms of something that's wrong with your prostate. But also, people, I think the point around walking is often it develops into pain in the bones and back pain, lower back pain specifically. But the problem is, those are often symptoms when it's a bit too late, and it's why we need this screening program, because many times it's only you're going to start seeing those symptoms when it's at the point where we can't cure it.
Yeah, gosh.
Mike, is it a modern day disease or condition? What I'm getting at really, if we had the technology and we had the research and the ability 100 years ago or more, would prostate problems be as prevalent as they are today?
I don't think they would really. I mean, part of the issue is that as men gain weight, it increases the risk of growth of the prostate, it increases the risk of actually all cancers. So I think the fact that we've got so many men now who carry quite a lot of extra weight in their tummy increases the risk of prostate cancer. So I think it will be more common now than it used to be.
OK. Well, good luck to you. What do you think your chances are of getting this study underway?
Well, I'm the eternal optimist. I think there's a clamour for it. And at the end of the day, if you know your PSA test, you need not die of prostate cancer.
And that's simply a blood test?
Yes. If you don't know it, you might.
OK. What do you think your chances are?
I think it's positive, but we're here, we launched the campaign. We're calling on the public to help us call on their MPs to back this campaign. And with your support, we think that we can get this over the line.
OK, good luck to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much indeed.
Right, stay with us. Still to come, we're going to be debating the pros and cons of AI in the classroom. Is it time for teachers to embrace it? Let us know what you think. We'll be debating it after this.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is GB News, the People's Channel. If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
25 minutes past 7 o'clock on this Wednesday morning, and the government has announced a £4 million project to train artificial intelligence tools to assist teachers in creating lessons plans and marking homework.
It will use government documents, including curriculum guidance and anonymised pupil assessments, to develop AI tools for classrooms.
Yeah, anyway, let's just say they've got all this stuff in place. Anyway, Andrew Eamonn is with us now. We know Andrew, friend of the programme. He's a broadcaster, lawyer, and the thing is, you're a futurist.
Ah, yes, I knew you were going to say that, absolutely. Yeah. We basically look at all the opportunities and help predict the future as a result of it, but also learning lessons from history. The mistakes that people make. I always say that history repeats itself because we don't learn the lessons from history. So what I do, I work with companies around the world looking at the lessons that could be learned and telling them what new tools are available, but warning the great opportunities, but warning of some of the risks as well.
So what are the great opportunities? Because people get very sensitive when it comes to the classroom.
Yes.
And new things being imposed on children. How do you see it going, and how quickly do you see it going?
It's already being used. So I always say that AI is our greatest human achievement, but potentially our biggest existential threat. So we have to understand it. What it does, it facilitates certain processes, boring processes, like programming basically classes, working out what sort of materials need to be done. The great thing about this initiative is they're making resources available, centralised resources, so they can come up with programmes and class plans and so on and so forth. So it will free up teachers' time to do more important things like interaction with pupils. So that's the great thing about it. They've also offered this £1 million reward, if you like, to help basically with the processing of exam results. So if they can do the marking as well and on that sort of thing, so it would standardise it.
Boring things.
Yeah.
Now, look, we've also friend of the programme, we say good morning to Chris McGovern. And the thing about Chris is he's a former head teacher. You've always had very, very interesting things to say, Chris, anytime I've ever spoken to you. Where do you stand on artificial intelligence?
Well, first of all, let me say we're not short of technology in schools. There's a technology overload. And many young people are addicted to digital technology. It's a bit like educational cocaine. We're not Luddites. We know that AI can play a part. But there are many problems that are associated with this. Baroness Greenfield, who's one of the world's leading brain scientists, wrote a book a few years ago. It was called Mind Change. She said we obsess about climate change, probably quite rightly too, but also children's brains are changing because of the impact of the technology. You can photograph the brain and see it. So it is a pathway which is rather dangerous, and it also could make teachers quite lazy, because if you have children using AI to generate homework and AI marking the homework, well, that's not the way forward. What teachers need to do is they need to mark homework so they can plot the progress of children and understand the child. And also, of course, AI, the implications are that it tends to dehumanise the situation. And you know, we do need to get away from the obsession with AI.
Chris, you brought up something there which I think is very, very relevant, and that is kids think differently than you did as a child, than I did as a child, and the powers and the pressures on them.
Yeah.
They think differently, they act differently, and they're going to be trained differently.
Yes. Absolutely. So this is why it's so important. I always say that AI is a wonderful partner, if you like. It's a co-partner, a co-creator for certain things. And it will also increase other skills. So we had the great AI safety conference here at Bletchley Park, you might remember, back in November last year. All the wonderful people flew on. Elon Musk, whose father's a regular on my show. We do all that sort of stuff. What happens is he was sort of looking about, these are the opportunities. What you need to understand is you're developing different skills. So the youngsters nowadays, we should encourage oracy, for example.
What's oracy?
Oracy is basically when you stand up in front of a class and say, look, I've learned about this, I'm going to tell you about it. So that's a real power to basically teach people, not just to write, because AI can help you with that, it's a co-creator, but turn around and say, actually, to show that you've understood it, stand in front of the class and tell us about it and deal with questions and so on and so forth.
That's not, with the greatest respect, I mean, that's not exactly revolutionary. Children have been debating and standing up for years. I just see red flags all over this Chris McGovern, and I genuinely think it's going to absolutely destroy creativity. I think it's going to green light laziness, and I think it's an absolute disaster and should be nowhere near education. I understand that teachers have got a lot of bureaucratic pressures. If they want help with any of the paperwork, fine. But when it comes to the basic act of teaching children, I don't think there are any shortcuts to take. What do you think?
Well, I would agree broadly with that. I mean, as I say, it's very addictive, the AI. And it's what's so important in a classroom, for example, is the camaraderie. Children work together to sometimes they discuss with the teacher to come to an answer to a problem. That camaraderie, that interchange of ideas will tend to go when you have machines in charge. Look, it's a dangerous pathway. And we've just heard mention of the Bletchley Park summit last year, and there's been a recent one in Seoul in Korea. The Elon Musk of this world, they are also aware of the dangers. It is an existential crisis. We can't go blundering off into this world of AI without thinking of what are the consequences. One school in the UK, we know from the press very recently, has gone totally over to AI. And it says it's a leap in the dark. Well, we don't want to take leaps in the dark with our children. So it's a pathway fraught with dangers. But yes, there are advantages too. And we need to look at the balance, and we need to tread very carefully. Fools rush in where angels fear to tread, I'm afraid.
I couldn't agree more, I'm afraid, but maybe I'm stuck in the dark age.
No, not at all. You make some great points, and that's why I say you're going with your eyes open. And what they're saying is that it's reducing the boring, laborious tasks. Doing a programme for a class, it takes a bit of time. So if the AI, and it's trained on central resources, can speed up that process and give teachers more time to interact with pupils, that's got to be good. And the reality is you're not talking about getting rid of teachers, you're talking about using this as a tool to enhance the teaching methods. And that's the key. And they're supporting it. People are sort of turning around at the basis and saying, look, it's increased massively the ability of doing. I'll give you an example. In America, for example, they say that chatting to ChatGPT is more effective because it's got more empathy than chatting to your GP. And the reason for that, and I'll tell you the reason, I thought I'd get you started, Isabel. The reason for that, it's got more information, it's got more time to deal with that sort of side. So if we use
going
this...
to become a bigger gap because people aren't going to be able to express empathy because they won't have any human interactions. It's actually making the problem worse.
Yeah.
We need to go back to basics, human face-to-face contact, and I don't know, I hate
As
AI.
long as you don't eliminate the human face-to-face. I'll give you the line.
And Chris McGovern, Chris, always good to hear from you. Thank you very much indeed. That's AI in the classroom, and that's just one aspect of it. What do you know? What do you think about this? Let us know. Time for the Great British Giveaway now. 30 grand could be yours. You've got to get in early because it's going to finish on Friday. Here's how.
It's the final week to see how you could win an incredible £30,000 in cash. It's extra cash that could really make a difference to your coming year. You could find yourself on that holiday you've always wanted to take, buy that treat that always seemed out of reach, or just send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. Time is ticking. Get your entry in now. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
The latest GB News travel.
Hello, good morning. I'm Andy Hilbert with the latest on the roads across the UK this Wednesday morning. In Kent, the coastbound M20, we've got that speed restriction due to Operation Brock. That's going to affect your Junction 8 from Leeds Castle and the Maidstone services to Junction 9 at Ashford. Also, as well, at the moment in East Yorkshire, the M62 eastbound now moving a lot better. It's all clear following that earlier accident. Junction 37 at Howden to Junction 38 at North Cave. And in Greater Manchester in Hollingworth, the A57 Mottram Moor, we've got some severe delays there in the roadworks near to the gun-in traffic lights around Market Street, causing queues at the moment. Obviously coming from Tintwistle, it's looking particularly busy. And in Cheshire, the northbound M6, all is now open on the slip road to Sandbach services following the earlier accident which happened there. And also too at the moment in West Sussex in the Sompting area up in Brighton Road, a lane closure for emergency repairs there this morning around the Hillbarn traffic lights. You're up to date.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Arlene Foster on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Here's Paul, and he's got the sport. Carabao Cup action last night, and there will be tonight as
Yes,
well.
there will be. Yeah, the Carabao Cup, which has been going on. We're in the second round, so a lot of the big boys will come in the third round because they're playing in Europe. So Everton beat Doncaster Rovers. So at least they've won a game, Everton. Everybody's really worried about Everton. You'd be worried, wouldn't you?
No.
What? Well, I mean, if you're an Everton fan, I know you're not worried. Not only are you not worried, you don't care. I couldn't give a... Yes.
So you're thinking it's going to be another bad season for Everton?
I do think it's going to be.
Maybe, well, you're not talking about relegation, are you?
Well, who knows? You know, lose 3-0, then lose 4-0.
But they didn't last night.
But they beat Doncaster Rovers. Leicester beat Tranmere. Queen's Park Rangers are through after beating Luton. See, Luton away after being relegated. You know, they're down at the Championship, right down at the bottom there. It's a bad start for them. Cooper won 4-1 on penalties, and well done Barrow, who beat Derby County. Stephen Clements, fine young man. And Ray Clement, the late, great Ray Clement's son, who is now the manager of Barrow. So a good win for him, beating Derby County on penalties yesterday.
Yeah.
Furthest they've ever been already.
Yeah.
Now, Emma Raducanu. Emma Raducanu was beaten in the first round of the US Open. Is this a surprise?
Sadly, not for me, no.
Izzy?
She hasn't been on great form. I mean, gosh, we've seen flickers of greatness. We have seen flickers of greatness. I haven't written her off yet.
I don't know whether it's greatness, but we've seen a little flicker of something. But anyway, she was interviewed yesterday. Oh, I say yesterday. This only about an hour ago because it went through the night. And here's a very upset Emma Raducanu.
You know, obviously this is a tournament I really want to do well in. So, yeah, I think I did really well to get myself back in the match. I think after the first set, I was, you know, outplayed completely. And I think I did well to equal it. And in the third set, you know, it was on serve until 2-2. It was pretty high-level tennis, and I think...
Well, she's visibly upset there.
I know. You don't see anybody upset, but 6-1, 3-6, 6-4. Sophia Kenin, she lost to, who won the Australian Open back in 2020. But, you know, she's still not that high up. I just don't know. It's never really going to happen. What about Dan Evans, then? Dan Evans played the longest match in US Open history. I think we can see Dan in action.
Is it still going on?
It started a long time ago and only just finished. Beat Karen Khachanov of Russia. I think it's the only man called Karen I've ever heard of, to be honest with you.
You know, the physical endurance to play that quality of tennis for that long is really remarkable. I mean, I played a bit of tennis after Wimbledon. You know, everyone does that sort of Wimbledon bounce where you have a go at playing because you're inspired. Half an hour. I was absolutely drenched in sweat, completely exhausted. These guys...
Oh, here we are. This is the right game.
There you go.
We saw the wrong game.
That's Flushing Meadows.
Yeah.
Oh, that was between the legs. Cheeky.
There we are. So it was. Oh, this.
That's Andy Murray.
That's Andy Murray. We're seeing some very interesting players. I think this is like the best of tennis. We're seeing everybody apart from Dan Evans currently at the moment. But anyway,
he did play with Andy Murray, didn't he, in the Olympics?
He did. You know, you always know that it's probably the wrong clip when you see someone that's actually retired that's playing. So we know it's just in case you're looking at it. I think, you know, it's great news that Andy Murray's back. But Dan Evans then, so 6-7, 7-6, 7-6, 4-6, 6-4, 5 hours and 35 minutes. And still fresh as a daisy.
That sounded a bit like the telephone number we used to have in Belfast. 7667.
By the way, when you used to answer the phone back in the day, did you used to say the number?
Yeah.
Why would you?
542152. That's what my nana answered.
40552.
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Because that was the etiquette given to you by the post office.
Is that so? You'd always give the number.
Yeah.
So just in case.
Hello. And then you have the number.
Right, so I never even said just give the number and then, right, OK, fine.
Yeah,
I was wondering why that was.
Nobody does it now, so don't worry about it.
Well, I don't even know what my phone number is.
I don't think anybody has a landline phone anyway.
OK. Only for cold calling.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paul. Got to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed.
Paralympics, we'll talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
We've got the newspapers and what's in them coming up right after this short break.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Top gear to top beer. See what we did there. Jeremy Clarkson. Hundreds of people have been queuing to be some of the first punters inside Jeremy Clarkson's new pub in Oxfordshire. It's called the Farmer's Dog, and it opened to the public at midday yesterday. Now, I mean, this is it's called the Farmer's Dog, and it's just outside of Burford, just off the A40. Jeremy Clarkson brought it with, and yesterday there was a 4-hour queue for a pint at the newly opened bar. The serious point of this story, and what, to be fair, Clarkson's doing, is like he's done with his farm, Diddley Squat Farm, which has been a very popular TV series. It is actually promoting the British pub. Jonathan, we know they're closing at a rate of knots in this country. Because this is Jeremy Clarkson's comment on why Sir Keir Starmer is banned. They're a hopeless bunch. Starmer hasn't done much to endear himself to me yet. Well, have a look at farming. It might turn around. You never know. So, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, the political point here, David, isn't it? It's like, you know, Jeremy Clarkson has raised, the issues of farmers in this country and how much of a struggle it is for them. And he's now doing the same for the pub trade. So there's a serious point to what Clarkson's doing.
Absolutely. I mean, these are two things which are part of our heritage: pubs and farms.
You're talking about farming. We do need to talk about farming actually, and what Brexit's done for farming. Not only what Brexit's done for farming, and now you have the government negotiating trade deals with countries, and the main things those countries want are better access for their meat in this country.
Absolutely not. It's not Brexit that is destroying farmers in this country. It is what the government have done, both under Johnson and Sunak, and now Starmer continuing this in actually making farm subsidies related to the whole green agenda.
So we start off with a nice friendly chit-chat about a pub and straight on to the B word.
I never talk about Dawn, I never talk about Brexit anymore.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled. Lovely.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
We've got Paula and Emma in studio who are going to discuss what's in the papers. And before we come to them, here's what's on the front covers.
Yeah, we've got the Times to start with. Turn the corner on Brexit is their headline. They're reporting on this trip by the Prime Minister to Berlin.
And a great picture of Sigourney Weaver there at the, I think it's the Venice Film Festival. Telegraph next, leading with Sir Keir Starmer's tax alert from Middle England following his keynote speech yesterday. And
Angelina Jolie there, you said she looked like me this morning. I'll take that and I will bank it. Thank you very much.
I just thought, what's Isabel doing on the front of the Telegraph?
What have I done now? Starmer finally comes clean, reports the Daily Mail, as they take aim at the PM's tax raid threat.
Next, reporting on his plans for a softer Brexit as he heads to Berlin.
And here's the Star. ET invaders would wipe us all out, as they claim this morning. Not sure when that's likely to happen.
Well, it probably happens sooner than you may think, Isabel. You're obviously not listening to all these hearings and inquiries that are going on in the US.
No, I'm not.
At the
moment.
Got
better things to do.
Well, all presidents have been briefed on the UFO threat that there is and Earth's cooperation so far with people. Wow. So Paula London, Emma Wolfe. Let's talk about Paula the prison spaces and why are there not any? We are talking 100 cells available in England and Wales for men. That is all that's available.
It's absolutely terrifying, especially for women. I mean, I remember I think about a year ago, I spoke about how someone tried to abduct me as a child. So I'm very nervous around guys and stuff, getting the tubes and roads, and I've been harassed a lot on the tube. And this is terrifying for women. What they need to do, we've got way too many people in jail at the moment for literally hurty words, you know, on Twitter, etc., etc. Those people that didn't even say they were guilty, they should get remand. They should get bail. They're now on remand, even though they said they're not guilty, so they should get bail. And people that are now in jail and they've said they're guilty, I don't know why they've got such long sentences. I don't know why they can't be released early and be on a
Wait a minute,
tag.
it's not necessarily about long sentences. It's either does the punishment fit the crime? Because what the problem is, we just don't have enough prisons. That's the real problem.
Yeah, but the problem is, when a judge decides what he's going to give someone, he has such a long distance. It can be, like, say, from 1 to 4 years. They seem to be going for the maximum all the time. And you've got to remember how many foreign people are in our jails. 12% of all people are foreign, and 25% of all criminals go on to reoffend. So I do not know why. I can't understand why foreign criminals are not deported. They do it all around the world, but for some reason we don't deport people because of all the human rights lawyers.
Truly shocking to hear the Prime Minister yesterday talking about how he was spending every day during the riots actually checking the number of prison spaces left in this country. I mean, I don't think any Prime Minister anywhere has ever had to do that before.
Letting out dangerous
and
men.
to have 100 spaces left, I think they did a record number of arrests over the bank holiday weekend, particularly over the Notting Hill Carnival, so the crisis in the capital with spaces. But goodness me, what's the solution to all of this?
The problem is our prison system doesn't work. This goes way back. Prison should be about getting people, rehabilitating.
They're always going to reoffend. People are always
whether that's through training, whether that's through getting them back to work, whether that's through setting up a system with the probation service. When they leave, they don't just reoffend. We've got this system where you shove people in prison, let them out after 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, or early, and then
a lot of people are programmed that way. They're always
you
going to
expect them to be
reoffend some
fixed. They've probably gone in with substance abuse issues, with other criminal, issues, with domestic abuse issues, or a difficult childhood. All of that, all of those issues. I'm not excusing prisoners, but I'm just saying the system doesn't work. So, of course, if you just shove people into these creaking buildings, put them there, when they come out,
How is it a deterrent? You don't want to go back. I mean, if I went to jail, not that I
really
would,
a deterrent.
I'd be like, that was awful. I'm not going to do anything bad again.
But
but it's not awful.
Them. We're not changing
there's
anything. We're just locking them away.
I can't remember which paper it was in this morning. I think it's in the Times, which was about an Albanian prisoner in the UK who keeps having a phone confiscated, and he keeps finding another one. And he's got 60,000 followers on social media. He's doing TikTok, sitting in his cell with his PlayStation there, reading. I think Jeffrey Archer was one of the books of choice that he'd been reading. Obviously, another jailbird. And what is going on in our prisons? People can be on social media.
How are they getting into prisons?
Because
that's one
they
problem.
can't get the staff.
Exactly.
And visits.
Can't get the staff.
How are they getting the equipment in?
How are you getting mobile phones, drugs, all of that in?
Might be a bit of leakage involved in that nowadays.
Of course.
There we go. Let's talk about the Paul of the former Peloton billionaire who says he hasn't got any money. Is Peloton in danger of folding, or is it just him?
Well, basically, he's lost a hell of a lot of money, and so has the company. But it's very interesting because no one really heard of Peloton until COVID. And I remember everyone was boasting about their Peloton, etc., etc. They did a very stupid error, though. A lot of big companies, a lot of very smart people make stupid errors. They had all the music for Peloton without getting the rights for it from companies. So they got sued for around £300 million, and they settled out of court. That was their first huge mistake. Secondly, another mistake, it's not their fault, but I think with good lawyers, they maybe Sex and City wouldn't be able to do it. They had Mr. Big, the fictional character, on a Peloton doing a 45-minute workout, and then he died afterwards of a heart attack. So a lot of men looked at that and thought, oh, that could happen to me, so they didn't want to use the Peloton anymore. And then obviously COVID, people are out and about now. I
love my Peloton. I do.
Oh, really?
I'm going through a phase at the moment where I wear my heart monitor. I don't do any of the classes. I try to get 75% output out of myself, whatever that might be, and I just watch TV. So whereas I might just watch TV at home on the sofa, I try and get my whatever it is. At the moment, I'm watching Emily in Paris and just sit on the bike for an hour, get it done.
I'd be so bored on a bike.
Don't you miss the benefits of being out in nature, going for a run
do
by
that
the
as
canal
well.
or around the park,
well, yes,
whatever?
I actually just get a bit scared, to be perfectly
Really?
honest. I don't like running on my own.
Really?
Yeah, I will run with my son quite often.
Yeah.
But I don't like running on my own. Yeah.
Well, I cycle, I'm a cyclist, and I would say, someone said to me, oh, don't you get scared cycling alone late at night through London? I said, it's the safest thing.
You don't wear earphones, though, do you? Because that's very dangerous.
No, I don't. And I don't text on my phone. But as a woman, cycling, you're on the move. You're not standing at a bus stop or on a train station. No one can get you. You are much
stopping
safer.
at red lights as
so
well.
maybe do a bit of Peloton, but cycling out and about.
Maybe.
Emma, tell me about this story. Here it is, front page of the Times. Empathy with others is not only a natural ability, it can be taught in the classroom.
Yes.
So this is teaching kindness to school children.
Yeah, it's a report into empathy and how actually having empathy lessons it's been shown to improve the kindness of children, improve positive behaviour, it helps them with developing relationships. Normally, Eamonn, I would be very anti-woke, all this stuff. I mean, my little 4-year-old comes back full of stuff about, from nursery, comes back talking about his human rights, and they are filled with this very, very woke stuff these days. But I do think in the case of empathy and kindness, actually, it does improve children's ability to relate to others. It does. I mean, look at the social unrest in our country at the moment. If we need one thing, it's for the next generation to be able to kind of relate to other people better. And I think it makes children happier and more able to kind of express themselves. It reduces the amount of tantrums and meltdowns that they're constantly having.
What I would say to you is my son was taught a lot of this at school, and kindness was a massive plus factor at school, and he came out a very kind person, I would say. What I would say is I look at him and I think he's sort of quite naive. I worry about him on a Friday night in a kebab shop or whatever, and a lot of drunks around him and things. He's the sort of guy that would go over and say, you shouldn't really do that. You shouldn't really fight with that guy like that. And he's the one that would end up getting stabbed.
Yeah, I do think the younger generation are softer. I do think that they are more kind of empathetic and more aware of others. But kindness is underrated. Just being kind is so simple.
Well, I read a paper about school in Japan, actually, and the children, when they first start school, they don't learn anything like all they learn about is being kind for the first couple of years, how to respect your elders, etc., etc.
So good.
And look how polite Japanese people are.
The reason I think your son's school was so good about kindness is a religious school, and I think with the death of religion in this country, where the fundamental pillar of Christianity was to love your neighbour as you love yourself, and people don't do that. People don't love their neighbour anymore.
I went to a very religious school. I don't think kindness played a big part in all of it. No, respect and order and all sorts of things like that. Fear.
But those basic skills we have lost. You know, we have lost those kind of. You know, it's the fabric of society.
It's because of social media a lot as well. Though. People are just on there, their friends, virtual friends. They don't know how to be.
They're not connected. They care more about themselves than about anybody else.
These days.
Society's more selfish
Years
than ever.
ago, all your neighbours looked out for people and everything. Now, most people don't even know
But when you
them.
don't have human contact as well, when you're locked in your bedroom just staring at a screen, you know, you do lose the ability to empathise with other people.
That's what
or
I like
to come
walking
into
in
the
the park,
workplace or to go for an interview. You know, young people just not able to relate to other people.
I always say morning to people in the park and they say it back to me, and I think it's lovely.
It's a lovely thing to do.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Paul and Emma, thank you. I'm thinking, saying hello to people. I mean, being Irish, we say hello to everybody.
Oh, I like doing that. I'm part Irish.
I can't go anywhere with you saying hello to everyone.
Yeah, but
man and his dog.
The worst thing is England and southern England. It's a bit rare, I have to say, saying hello. Here's the weather.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Through today, it will feel very warm, if not hot for some of us. Sunny spells for many north and western areas, but plenty of long-lived sunshine across the east. We've still got the remnants of a weather front from yesterday pushing into the northwest, as well as parts of Wales, southwest England, parts of northern England. That will bring a risk of some rain and showers through the day, but it will tend to fizzle away as the day goes on. So some hazier sunshine, a risk of a chance of rain for north and western areas. In the east, though, plenty of sunshine. Temperatures climbing as high as 29 degrees in the south and east, but quite widely mid to high 20s for many central and eastern areas of England. A little fresher further north and west. We've got quite brisk winds still across the far north of Scotland, and potentially still some quite heavy showers across the Northern Isles, many northern areas of Scotland, in fact, into this evening. I think they will tend to ease as the night goes on, but we've still got that risk across parts of Northern Ireland as well. Northern England staying that much drier as well as Wales, but we've still got the remnants of that weather front I mentioned earlier, bringing cloudier skies to central areas of England. Now, once that weather front does push through overnight, tonight it will turn much fresher. So tonight is going to be a much fresher night than last night. It was quite a mild night last night. So clearer skies developing quite widely across the UK and that cooler air pushing in. Bit of a brisk breeze across the north and west, and further showers will affect western areas of Scotland as well as the Northern Isles. But temperatures in towns and cities in the low teens, but we could be down in single figures rurally across many northern and western areas where we do see the longest lived clear skies. So Thursday looks like another sunny day. It's not going to be quite as warm as today, and across the north and west further showers, but I think the showers will be fewer and further between in Thursday, so many of us will stay relatively dry through the day. In any sunshine, still feeling quite warm, highs of 23 or 24 degrees in the south and east, in the high teens across the north and west. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Hello, good morning. I'm Andy Hilbert with the latest on the roads across the UK for a Wednesday morning. In Kent, the coastbound M20, a speed restriction in place due to Operation Brock from Junction 8 for Leeds Castle and the Maidstone services to Junction 9 at Ashford. Also there on that stretch on the coastbound M20 in Kent, a lane closure because of a broken down vehicle now. In Leicestershire, the southbound M1, a lane closed at the minute because of an accident from Junction 24 for Nottingham South and the East Midlands Airport, and also in Greater Manchester in Hollingworth on Mottram Moor, the A57. That's partially blocked at the minute due to overrunning roadworks around Market Street at the Gunning Lights round to the A6280 with roadworks from overnight that's been causing some issues. And in County Durham, Middlesbrough, the T-Slough over the A19, queuing with a lane closed due to a broken down vehicle near to the Portrack interchange is causing queues to the Norton interchange this morning there. Across the UK, Europe Today.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could win an incredible £30,000 in cash. It's extra cash that could really make a difference to your coming year. You could find yourself on that holiday you've always wanted to take, buy that treat that always seemed out of reach, or just send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. Time is ticking. Get your entry in now. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Is Keir Starmer set to bring us closer to the European Union?
The Prime Minister's beginning a visit to Germany with the aim to start negotiations on a new treaty.
He wants to boost trade, deepen defence cooperation and increase joint action on illegal migration.
This comes as the Tories warn nothing will be safe, as Sir Keir could be plotting a tax raid on the middle classes as he faces criticism on watered-down election promises.
Prison panic. The Ministry of Justice confirms that there are only 100 spaces left in male prisons in England and Wales. 100.
And do celebs get preferential treatment when it comes to crime? The Coronation Street star Charlie Lawson will be joining us this morning to debate it.
And in the sport, can you guess the female British tennis player knocked out of the US Open in the first round last night? Who could it be? Well, Dan Evans won the longest match in the tournament's history. The Raheem Sterling-Jadon Sancho swap looks very likely before the transfer window shuts on Friday. And the Paralympics opening ceremony takes place in Paris tonight, with better weather forecast than the last one, we hope.
Good morning, and quite a warm day to come for some of us, but will that warm weather last until the weekend? We can find out with me a little later on.
Hello there, very good morning to you wherever you're watching or listening. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Well, the Prime Minister has said his trip to Germany is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to reset our relationship with Europe. And a lot of you get in touch today and you don't like it. You don't like it.
Well, Sir Keir Starmer is in the country for 2 days of meetings in Berlin and Paris. And just moments ago, he met with the German President Steinmeier at the Bellevue Palace. And later today, he's set to meet the German Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, to launch negotiations on a potential bilateral treaty, which means just between the two countries, which hopes to boost business and increase joint action on illegal migration.
Now, this comes as he's under fire for his warning yesterday on the tax rate of middle-class families ahead of what he termed a painful autumn budget.
Well, we're joined now by the Conservative Party leadership candidate, Robert Jenrick. A very good morning to you and welcome to breakfast here on GB News. First of all, your thoughts on this trip by the Prime Minister. Good morning to Germany. First of all, this historic meeting with the President there, the first time since Brexit in 2016 that anyone from the UK stepped inside the Bellevue Palace.
Well, look, it's important that we, the UK, has good relations with our European neighbours and allies. But I am concerned that Keir Starmer is not going to achieve his objective. He spoke yesterday at length and didn't mention immigration once. So I want us to be adopting the strongest possible stance, yes, to be working with our friends and allies on that issue, including Germany, but also having a proper deterrent. And one of the first acts of this Labour government was to scrap the only credible deterrent, the Rwanda policy. So I'm very suspicious, if you'll excuse me, of Keir Starmer's interest in illegal migration.
Suspicious. A lot of people will question whether you are now really a genuine, true Brexiteer. You, of course, voted to remain back in 2016. And Suella Braverman, who we know to be on the right of the party, just last month said that it was great that you were standing to be leader from a different wing of the party, as she described it. And she talked about a conversation with you about leaving the ECHR a year ago when you looked horrified by the prospect, to quote her.
Well, look, I think Brexit was the right decision for this country. I want us now to reap the full benefits of it, and that means using the freedoms that we have as a result of being outside of the European Union to grow our economy, to back the industries of the future, and to ensure that we secure our borders. And yes, I do believe that we need to leave the European Convention on Human Rights. I don't say that for ideological reasons. I say it from the practical stance, having been a minister in the Home Office and seen how difficult it is for us to remove foreign national offenders like rapists and murderers and paedophiles from our country. I've seen the fact that there are dozens of terror suspects who we can't survey and remove in the way that we need to. And I've seen how challenging it is to implement policies like Rwanda, which are essential if we're going to grip our borders and ensure that we remove people as soon as they arrive here, for example, on small boats. That's my approach. That's what I want us to do if I'd be lucky enough to lead the Conservative Party.
Would your approach, Robert, be, to have these sort of talks that Keir Starmer's having with the Germans, with the French, whatever? Do you think it's good that we can improve relations and that we have got things of mutual interest, things to talk about that will be different post-Brexit?
Look, I want us to have strong relations with our European neighbours, whether that's on business, on immigration and security, and our mutual defence interests, like the defence of Ukraine. But what I do not want us to do is to undermine Brexit. I want to ensure that we are taking full advantage of the freedoms that we secured as a result of leaving the European Union, and that will mean diverging with Europe, taking a different path at times, because we need to ensure that our business and industry, in particular, the ones that are going to drive growth in the future, like financial services, like tech, like life sciences, can have better and smarter and more nimble regulation than our European neighbours. I worry that Keir Starmer is going to do precisely the opposite to that.
Yeah, back at home, 100 prison spaces left for men in England and Wales. How have we come to this situation?
Well, we need to build more prisons. I want us to be building prisons and locking up more criminals, particularly hyper-prolific offenders, the people who are responsible for so many crimes. And so I want us to do that. We didn't build enough prison places, although the last Conservative government did build more than the previous Labour governments. So we have been building more, but we need to do far more in the future. And I think that the Labour Party's instinct is to release people too quickly. Are they doing absolutely everything, straining every sinew to find ways of keeping those criminals in jail, not releasing them too soon? They said they had no option but to release criminals a few weeks ago, and then they found 500 places. So I think we can see their preference. Mine would be to do absolutely everything to keep those people in prison, and then if we're lucky enough to re-enter government in the future, to build more prisons and keep more hyper-prolific criminals in jail and keep them off the streets.
Anthony Selden, he's written a new biography about Liz Truss, and he's written in there that she considered scrapping NHS cancer treatment after she crashed the economy, and an advisor in the room was reported to have said, "Is she serious?" What do you make of that?
Well, look, I don't know any more than you do. I've heard of these suggestions. We'll have to wait and see when the book is published. I do think that the mini-budget was harmful to our reputation as a party for sound economic management. It was too cavalier. We mustn't do that again. We've got to rebuild the trust and the confidence of the public that we as Conservatives can manage and safeguard people's pensions and mortgages and small businesses. That's an essential part of the work that we need to do now as a party. Having said that, the corrective measures that were put in place by Jeremy Hunt and Rishi Sunak afterwards meant that there was no long-term scarring effect, and the economy is actually growing very well now. We're the fastest growing economy in the G7. We've got unemployment low. We have left a good legacy to this Labour government, and now Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves are pretending that the public finances are in a worse position they are, so as to break the promises that they made just 7 weeks ago to the British public.
How can you say leaving them a £22 billion
for raising your taxes
black hole was a good thing to leave them?
Well, look, the reason why Labour are saying that they've got this £20 billion black hole is because they've chosen to spend £10 billion a year paying off their trade union paymasters, hiking pay for people like the train drivers to the tune of £10,000 a year, despite getting nothing in return. In fact, not even settling the strikes, because ASLEF, the train drivers union, say they're going to go on strike again on the East Coast Main Line, and because Ed Miliband, on the high altar of net zero zealotry, is going to spend £8 billion on an energy company that doesn't even produce any energy. So we know that Labour are making political choices, and I think these are selfish choices. They're the wrong choices. They're choosing to spend money on the trade union paymasters at the expense of people like elderly people by scrapping the winter fuel payment, so that people on incomes as low as £11,000 a year are going to be paying the price.
Yeah, but on this black hole, Starmer was very clear yesterday when he was asked about it as well in the Rose Garden, and he said, look, you don't take my word for it. How else do you account for this £5 billion higher borrowing that the OBR have just reported for earlier in the year? He says that you guys hid this huge black hole.
No, look, this is simply not true.
So how do you account for it then? Before the general election...
Well, let me explain. Before the general election, Rachel Reeves herself, in an interview with the Financial Times, said that she knew the state of the public finances, that thanks to the OBR, whose power she's just enhancing, she could see everything and that there would be no surprises. Keir Starmer stood on a platform of no ifs, no buts, no tax rises for households and working people. They are preparing the ground to do precisely the opposite. And why are they going to be raising taxes on the middle classes? Why are they scrapping winter fuel payments for the elderly? They're doing it because they want to pay back their trade union paymasters to the tune of £10 billion a year. That is the wrong political choice. We Conservatives are going to oppose that. This is precisely the reason why we've got to get together as a party, get ourselves into fighting shape, sock it to Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves this autumn, and ensure there is not now 10 years of Labour Party rule of this country.
Okay. Robert Jenrick, we've got to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for your opinions this morning. Right.
Let's get the thoughts, shall we, of Catherine Forster, who was listening to all of that for us from Westminster. Good morning to you, Catherine. Interesting to hear him absolutely defend his credentials as an ECR quitting hardliner as the Prime Minister is in Berlin this morning, seeking closer ties with Europe.
Yes, Robert Jenrick has been on quite a journey, hasn't he? Because originally, when he came into the Home Office, it was sort of to try to temper Suella Braverman. And now he's become really very hard line on all of this and wants to leave the ECHR and positioning himself very, very clearly as a potential future Conservative leader. So we'll have to see. But of course, attacking Labour, as you would expect. But the fundamental problem is that the Conservatives had 14 years, promised to stop the boats, failed to do so. The numbers have continued to rise, and so they've been in power. And again, talking about the fact there's only 100 prison places, more prisons should have been built. Well, they had 14 years to build them. So this stuff is difficult. But yes, He certainly is making very clear what he will do with the Conservative Party if, indeed, he gets put in charge of it.
Thanks, Catherine. Thank you very much indeed. Let's talk about this prison situation, which we were speaking to Robert Jenrick about. 100 spaces left in men's prisons, right? This is in England and Wales. And this has been reported in the Daily Telegraph newspapers today. Tell us more. Let's go to our Home and Security editor, Mark White. Mark.
Yeah, good morning to you both. It is, without a doubt, a severe crisis now within the prison estate. We had been etching ever northwards in terms of the number of prison places available, but last Friday we were over 88,000. So just a few hundred places left within the prison estate, and then we got the news just yesterday that we only had 100 prison places left. And to be frank, that means effectively that the prisons are full, because, 100 here or there doesn't mean anything. If you're anything over a couple of thousand capacity still left, then you are effectively in severe trouble. So at 100 places left, it's just logjam. It was blamed, of course, on the bank holiday. What you have over the bank holiday is a system where prisoners that would have been released on the Monday, having served sentences, couldn't be released until the Tuesday. There's people that have been arrested over a particularly busy bank holiday with the likes of the Notting Hill Carnival, other festivals and football matches, who then get remanded in custody. That all helps jam up the system even further. So the hope is that now over the next few days he can get those numbers down to create a little bit of headspace again. But it is a crisis, and that's why we are looking at a system coming in within a couple of weeks now that will allow prisoners to be released, certain prisoners to be released having served 40% of their prison time, rather than the normal 50% of prison time, and then you can serve the rest in the community on probation. It'll be 40% for the majority of prisoners, and that, they believe, will free up another 5,500 places. But it's highly controversial. Putting hundreds, thousands of prisoners back on the streets is not without its consequences.
Okay, Mark. Thank you. Leave it there. And your views very, very welcome on all of this. Have your say.
Might as well take a quick look at some of them, because, as Eamonn was saying, lots of you have been getting in touch this morning on the issue of the Prime Minister seeking this treaty with Germany. Mel says, I thought the EU President Ursula von der Leyen said we couldn't cherry-pick and do any bilateral deals with individual countries. Didn't she say any deals had to be with the EU and negotiated through them? She absolutely did. I really wonder what Brussels will think about all of this. Kenneth says, morning. What is the current trade difference between UK and Germany? I bet Brexit hasn't stopped Germany selling vast numbers of cars to the UK. I think both economies have been struggling, haven't they, quite a lot in recent months. But keep those thoughts coming in. People also getting in touch, Eamonn, on AI in school.
Yes. Should your teachers use AI tools to keep children in line? It's all very complicated. So they say that AI, artificial intelligence, will mark the homework. I don't know how you do that. You feed it into it like as if it's a fax machine or something, and then it just goes.
Well, it's all online anyway. Their homework is on a computer, so you just upload it, I guess.
Right.
But Chris says, I use artificial intelligence every day, and it's made me more creative and not less. So that's an interesting take on it. Paul says, children at school should be taught all about new tech. If we don't, we'll fall behind the rest of the world. New techniques are fantastic if they're used in the right way. You're right, probably. I suppose I need to relax about it all. I just worry that it's going to kill us all off and we're not going to use our brains anymore. You know, sat-nav. I do think sat-nav is one of the best inventions ever, except when we moved house a year ago, obviously didn't know my way around the local area, and I still don't, because I put the sat-nav on and it just doesn't go into my muscle memory. And so we stop using our brain in the same way. Yes, the tech helps me, but then I become dependent on it.
Yeah.
And I just worry that will happen in all other aspects of our lives.
People can't read
spell.
Maps. And even, when I say people, even, well, I can read a map and I can do all that, but if I want to see where I am in relation to anywhere else, I'm on a road, my sat-nav shows me a road, it doesn't show me the area or what the nearest town is or whatever. So I do think, yes, it gets things done, but you do lose out. You do lose out a lot, I would say. You'll not lose out in the weather today. Let's go to Annie Shuttleworth.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Through today, it will feel very warm, if not hot for some of us. Sunny spells for many north and western areas, but plenty of long-lived sunshine across the east. We've still got the remnants of a weather front from yesterday pushing into the northwest, as well as parts of Wales, southwest England, parts of northern England. That will bring a risk of some rain and showers through the day, but it will tend to fizzle away as the day goes on. So some hazier sunshine, a risk of a chance of rain for north and western areas. In the east, though, plenty of sunshine. Temperatures climbing as high as 29 degrees in the south and east, but quite widely mid to high 20s for many central and eastern areas of England. A little fresher further north and west. We've got quite brisk winds still across the far north of Scotland, and potentially still some quite heavy showers across the Northern Isles, many northern areas of Scotland, in fact, into this evening. I think they will tend to ease as the night goes on, but we've still got that risk across parts of Northern Ireland as well. Northern England staying that much drier as well as Wales, but we've still got the remnants of that weather front I mentioned earlier, bringing cloudier skies to central areas of England. Now, once that weather front does push through overnight, tonight it will turn much fresher. So tonight is going to be a much fresher night than last night. It was quite a mild night last night. So clearer skies developing quite widely across the UK and that cooler air pushing in. Bit of a brisk breeze across the north and west, and further showers will affect western areas of Scotland as well as the Northern Isles. But temperatures in towns and cities in the low teens, but we could be down in single figures rurally across many northern and western areas where we do see the longest lived clear skies. So Thursday looks like another sunny day. It's not going to be quite as warm as today, and across the north and west further showers, but I think the showers will be fewer and further between in Thursday, so many of us will stay relatively dry through the day. In any sunshine, still feeling quite warm, highs of 23 or 24 degrees in the south and east, in the high teens across the north and west. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
OK, it's time now for the Great British Giveaway, your chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash. But you need to hurry because lines close at 5 o'clock on Friday.
Yes, so here's how you do it to be able to chance.
It's the final week to see how you could win an incredible £30,000 in cash. It's extra cash that could really make a difference to your coming year. You could find yourself on that holiday you've always wanted to take, buy that treat that always seemed out of reach, or just send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. Time is ticking. Get your entry in now. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
A window cleaner is battling to prove he has the only portrait of William Shakespeare made in his lifetime.
Yes, so owner Stephen Wadlow has been trying to validate the painting for years. He's had it x-rayed, he's had it analysed by experts, he's had it scientifically dated back to 1595 when the playwright was 31 years old. If it is the Bard, it could be worth north of £200 million.
Steve, welcome to GB News. First of all, just explain how you came to have this painting in your possession.
It was sat there all my lifetime sort of thing while I was growing up, above the television in the corner. It was only back about 12 years ago that a visitor, she said, "Oh, I think it looks like William Shakespeare, you know, I like your copy of William Shakespeare," and was shocked to see it was an original painting. So it was only then that I started researching, and the different institutions have helped with the x-rays and all the rest of it. But then, is it actually Shakespeare? Well, all the facial comparisons, technology, everything like that, all matches with the Droshell, which is the only known 2D image of Shakespeare. And who do you go to find that out?
There's a suggestion in the Sun's write-up of this story that you've been struggling to be heard in the academic world, the lofty art world. It's all a bit snooty. Yes. It's about who you know, and you're a tradesman.
Yes, yes. That is definitely true in some avenues, but then I have to say, and it's lovely to be able to have this opportunity to say it, there's other people in that world that have been fabulous. It's taken a long time to sort of get listened to. We want the discussion out there because all the evidence that we've got indicates that this really should be discussed.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Now, you pick up your newspapers and you will see more and more often newspapers splashed with images of celebrities facing legal troubles.
Yes, whether that's bankruptcy, security issues, defamation, violence.
But more often than not, they seem to get off with lenient sentences. I don't know if that's true.
No.
I can't vouch for that, but that appears to be what our production team thinks, which begs the question, do they get preferential treatment on crime? So in other words, does your face talk for you if you are speeding or if you are doing something awful or horrendous? Does being famous help you? We've got the showbiz journalist Rebecca Toomey to talk about this, and we've got the actor Charlie Lawson on this one. So, Charlie, has your face been your fortune? Has it ever got you off a speeding ticket or anything like that?
No, I think it's probably directly. Morning, Eamonn. How the hell are you?
I'm all right, my friend.
Listen, no, I think this is complete nonsense. If you look back, Eamonn, and you've been there, same as me, if you went through the CRAP that we had to go through in the 90s, whatever, being famous, our phones were hacked for 20 years. We were subject to lies in the press every day. In fact, we were tortured by certain journalists, as you well know. We don't get off with a damn thing. It's directly the opposite. And I think that has got better since Levinson, et cetera, but if you were famous through the 90s and through the early 2000s, as I say, until the News of the World disappeared, and many other publications should be named as well. And I think, you know, even peers on the other channel, whatever, would admit to this. We were absolutely tortured. Yeah. And if anything is the truth, it's exactly the opposite. Yeah, if you happen to be on the TV, you get nailed.
Yeah, I think, Charlie, plenty of celebs would say it does still happen. It's just done through third parties, and these newspapers disassociate themselves from it. Yeah. But Rebecca Toomey, I wanted to ask, because Jordan was in court yesterday, all eyes were on her, and she managed to get her case kicked a bit further down the road, citing mental health problems. She's been in trouble because she was off in Turkey having, I think, some other surgery when she was supposed to be at a hearing, and she's asked for the next one to be behind closed doors for mental health reasons. And a lot of people were saying, well, hang on a minute, when I'm bankrupt, when I'm being strung up because I'm paying my owing debts and I'm not paying them on time, I don't get this special treatment. But I suppose being a celebrity, you are a slightly different case. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to talk more just not obviously about the human impact of being in the public eye and, you know, what you experience as a celebrity, but from a legal perspective, from a criminal perspective, I am inclined to say, yes, certain celebrities get a very soft ride. Some don't because they're wanting to be made an example of. I mean, you've used the example of Katie Price here. Now, she has spoken openly about her mental health issues, and that's a side note, I think that's something that we should be very sensitive around. But if you're talking about preferential treatment for celebrities, yes, because they aren't like the rest of us. There is, the social media is the court of public opinion. There's a lot of eyes on it. So they're the benchmark sometimes that I think we put so many things in society against. But when it comes to criminal activity, there's a lot of pressure on the police and the courts to act in a certain way because they know it's going to be scrutinised in a very different way. With celebrities, not all celebrities, but a lot of celebrities with money can afford to have the best possible lawyers. And I think also it depends on the fan base of that celebrity. It depends if you're a children's TV presenter and let's just say you're seen taking illegal substances, the impact of that on public perception and on the public and on how the police and the court system's seen is one thing. If you're someone in a band that makes music for a certain demographic and you're, just say you're seen to be taking drugs, illegal substances, whatnot, it's a very different impact. So I think it's very nuanced in the celebrity entertainment world. But looking at the case of Katie Price, there has been a lot of examples of where she has not, if some would argue, been held to account for some of the activity and some of the things that she's been doing. But I think the mental health situation is a very different and isolated event. But there are other celebrities who have gone through the court system several times and don't seem to be held account for things, which, like you just said, someone, a civilian in the street doing the same thing wouldn't get the same treatment.
I also wonder, Charlie, if actually sometimes they get a worse time, not just because of, as you described, the sort of phone hacking and the sort of tabloid intrusion, but I think about Kirsty Allsop recently, who was famously criticised for letting her 15-year-old go into railing, and then somebody dobbed her into social services. And Marina Fogel, married to Ben Fogel's written in the Times today saying actually she thinks she had a malicious referral to social services just because they were in the public eye. These things happen, don't they? As a sort of counterside, the downside to being a celebrity.
Yeah, look, listen, Rebecca, etc., Eamonn, and all, being famous is infinitely nicer than not being famous in the sense that, I can get an upgrade to first class, blah, 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 and all the rest. And if you're nice to people, you get looked after. But you do have to put up with a lot of, well, I can't say it this time in the morning, but you do. Pricey, Pricey's a friend. Pricey's does have issues, and I suspect that's probably why she hasn't been punished, because I think probably counsel for the prosecution and defence or whatever probably think, well, this wee girl isn't going to do very well if you give her 6 months in Brixton. But I don't know. I just speculate. But listen, the downside of being a celebrity or being famous, whatever, is you get tortured in the pub, you get tortured in restaurants and all the rest of it. That's just the price you pay. I don't think we get preferential treatment, and I think Eamonn will probably back me up on this. However, listen, if you eat the juice, do the time, you know what I mean? And I don't know any people who get treated preferentially. I really don't, honest to God. I just don't think it happens, and I think it's probably the opposite in very many cases. I mean, somebody mentioned to me yesterday, one of your team, about Joey Barton. Joey's got a big gob, he always has done, and you can't be saying stuff like that. If you don't think the two commentators, girl commentators, women commentators, are as good as the men, you don't call them Fred and Rose West. That's just being dim, and he deserves a good slap on the backside and told to wise up. You know what I mean? He needed to engage his brain before he opened his gob. But the answer to your question, I'm waffling now. It's early in the morning.
I've got to be honest.
Well, I don't think celebrities get treated in any special way at all. In fact, I think it's probably 90% the opposite.
OK, so that's what Charles Lawson thinks. Celebrities don't get preferential treatment. Rebecca Toomey, the showbiz journalist, she thinks they do, or they can do. Thank you very much indeed, guys. We'll leave it there, and we'll ask you to have your say. What do you think?
Yeah.
Next,
we've got Paul Coit. We'll be giving him some special preferential treatment.
The latest GB News travel. Hello, good morning. I'm Andy Hilbert with the latest on the roads across the UK for a Wednesday morning. In Leicestershire, the southbound M1, that's slow due to an accident now just after junction 24 for Nottingham South East Midlands Airport. In Kent, the coastbound M20, a speed restriction due to Operation Brock. That's going to affect your junction 8 for Leeds Castle and the Maidstone services to junction 9 at Ashford. There was also a broken down vehicle there. That's now gone. In Hertfordshire, the anti-clockwise M25 queuing due to an earlier broken down vehicle just before junction 25 at Enfield, causing queues to junction 27 for the M11. And in Surrey, the southbound M3, one lane is closed due to a broken down vehicle at the minute, junction 3 for Lightwater and Bagshot to junction 4 for the Blackwater Valley route. And in Warwickshire, the southbound M6, all traffic temporarily being held at the minute. This is because of an accident from junction 4A for the M42 to junction 4 at the moment this morning. Across the UK, Europe Today.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled. Lovely.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Prime Minister is in Germany, he's in Berlin. Let's go to our political editor, Christopher Hope, who's there with him. What's the latest, Christopher?
Morning, Eamonn. Morning, Isabel. Yeah, I'm in the German Chancellery here. You'll see behind me there's a podium there, and some over there in chair. There's a podium there. You'll see there where the PM Keir Starmer will stand shortly with Olaf Scholz, and he'll have some marching bands to meet him, and he's here in about half an hour's time. And it's the head of a big press conference when Olaf Scholz, the German Chancellor, with the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, will set out the plans for a new German treaty, a treaty to tie the UK much more closely to Germany on trade grounds. It will cover business, trade, deepen defence security, and other action on tackling illegal migration. And it's the last thing, I think, which will capture the headlines probably in the UK. There's a kind of attempt here by both Germany and the UK to do more to tackle illegal migration. We heard so much about during the election campaign, when we heard there'd be lots more work to work closely with colleagues and countries on the continent by the Keir Starmer, and here he is within 2 months putting that into action in Germany.
Can you just enlighten us a little bit about Ursula von der Leyen's view in all of this? Because we had a very switched-on viewer called Mel saying she thought that Ursula had said we can't cherry-pick and do bilateral deals with individual countries. And I do wonder, A, what Brussels will think of all of this, and B, if it opens the door for lots more of these treaties, and whether that undermines the EU in some way.
That's a great point, Isabel, from our viewer. That's right, of course that's right. We can't do deals on lots of areas. We can't touch the customs union, single market. They are sacrosanct. They involve renegotiating the entire Brexit treaty, and we can't touch things like freedom of movement. But there's a chance on those areas they may be opened when we renegotiate the trade and cooperation agreement with the European Union starting next year, going into the following year. That's when we can do a trade-off, maybe on rights to fishing grounds, maybe a deal on veterinary issues or food, and then do a deal on freedom of movement, maybe for the under-30s. That's all for the future, but right now it's about connecting the UK much more closely with big countries on the continent, starting with the biggest, which is Germany. And what that means for Brexit isn't clear, because if we do a number of these deals, it might be like Lilliput, all these sort of strings of tying down Britain as it tries to do deals elsewhere in the world. That's the problem it's going to be, that if we end up too many links to countries on the continent, we can't do the big trade deals, the big trading stuff we were told about ahead of that Brexit vote in 2016. But the PM, Sir Keir Starmer, arrives here with Olaf Scholz on the hour, and hopefully you'll be seeing that on GB News too.
OK, we'll be back over to you, Christopher. Appreciate that. Thank you very much indeed. From Berlin to Paris, Paul Coit, Paralympics opening ceremony today.
It is. It's not going to be along the river. This one is going to be the Champs-Élysées to the Place de la Concorde. Over 168 nations, 4,400 athletes. I found myself listening to Charles Aznavour because of the closing ceremony. They started playing this Charles Aznavour song.
Chanson d'amour?
No, that was your Manhattan Transfer. That was Manhattan Transfer, wasn't it? Yeah. It was.
Well done.
Honestly, yes, you do Manhattan Transfer again. But yeah.
You can do a rendition?
Well, I can't. You know, I think so. Eminez moi, which means take me, and I was trying to learn it in English, but it really is not.
We get the idea.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, the Paralympics. I don't think it's much Charles Aznavour, but anyway, Lucy Schuker and Terry Bywater will be carrying our flag. So it goes along. It starts 7 o'clock tonight, and the Paralympics gets underway tomorrow.
Now, we've talked a lot about various sports throughout the morning, but something we haven't talked about is the manager at Burnley for the academy, academy manager there.
Yeah.
His name's Dave Longwell. What's happened to Dave?
Well, can you imagine? I don't know if you've ever sent a WhatsApp or a text to someone by mistake.
Yes.
Can you think of anything that you've done where you've said something, not that you would ever slag anybody else off, but you've done it and it's gone to that person? Has that ever happened to you?
Oh, the person you're actually slagging off.
Yeah.
I've done that loads.
I know, because it came to me, that one. And I was not happy about it. And it's because I love you, I'll let you off and pretended it never happened. But Dave Longwell quit as the Burnley Academy manager, so it was over a report that was supposed to be for an agent. But what he did was, instead of sending it to him,
so easily done.
Went to the internet.
No.
Can you imagine. What's the worst moment? Is it the moment that you see that it's gone, or the moment someone actually says, "What"?
The moment you see it's gone and you think you're waiting for the bomb to go off. Yeah.
Several players. Darko Shurlinov is dubbed a disaster.
Oh gosh.
So he saw that about himself. A mad guy, and said they made a mistake with fellow winger Manuel Benson. That him and Michael Mellon are lazy, so he's written that on there as well, so they've seen that. Belgian, £14 million midfielder. Mike Trezor is a lightweight and a big waste of money.
But should he not have been, as a manager, as an academy manager, should he not have been telling these guys this anyway?
Well, I don't know whether you're going to go, listen here, you're too skinny and you're weak and you're never going to... You've got to be careful.
They're under 21, they're youngsters.
Exactly. So, but the thing is, a lot of these are not... He's the under 21 manager. These are the actual main players. So anyway, he's found out and he's
elbowed.
He's gone.
Well,
what a big mistake.
We're all one tweet away, one text away from disaster.
Everybody is.
You've got the elbow as well. That's it for you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's it.
Don't look so hurt. It's not me.
I am. Yeah, it is you. You're the man that's responsible for this. You don't have to listen to everybody else. You're Eamonn Holmes, for crying out loud.
Don't feed that anymore. He needs to listen.
OK, we've got the papers coming up next, and we're going to be talking about those right after this. Don't go away.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The Labour government wants to introduce a legal right not to be bothered so that staff can ignore bosses' emails and texts and calls outside of normal office hours, including holidays. It's all part of Labour's election pledge to give everybody a right to switch off for the first time ever. Mutaz, do you ever turn your phone off?
I don't. If you want to work in a high-functioning job that pays well in the end, you have to keep your phone off. The workplace is competitive. If you work longer hours, you're more likely to get a promotion.
It depends what job you do. We work in news, the three of us. News goes on all the time. It would be ridiculous to think that we could ever leave our emails or a phone call alone, because we don't know what's about to happen next. But say you're working in a clerical job or a manual job, if it's absolutely 9 to 5 and your job is over by then, there's no reason why you should be contacted by your boss except in an emergency.
Is that because people nowadays, they want to, they don't want to live to work, they want to work to live?
People are more relaxed about work. I'm able to come in here dressed like this. But when it comes to legislation, you've got to be careful because it leads to ridiculous situations. The Euros, when England was playing with Spain, one of the Spanish footballers was 17 years old. I think the Spanish FA had to pay a fine because in Germany, a 17-year-old shouldn't work after 8 p.m. or something like that.
With me now is the head of employment at Pickering Solicitors, Joanna Robson. Joanna, thanks for joining us. Is it a generational issue?
Yes, I think there is a generational issue. I think younger people, they generally want to make a really good impression. So sometimes you find the younger workforce are the ones that actually want to really put their mark out there and they really want to work longer hours. And that's going to, it's going to be difficult for younger people to, switch off.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We've got a little look through the newspapers now for you in the company and giving their opinions, Paula London and Emma Wolfe. And we are beginning talking about something we mentioned earlier in the programme, and that is the boss of Ryanair, Michael O'Leary. He's basically saying that there should be a 2-drink limit in the airport terminal building before you get on his plane because too many people are getting on drunk. Now, does he mean that he would personally prefer to make them drunk or and get the profit and take it away from the terminals? What do you think of this one, Emma?
Well, he also says alcohol with powder and tablets. So he sounds like people are really, really getting pretty out of control at the airport. I mean, is there anything worse than being on a flight with drunk, rowdy, very loud passengers? It's a horrible experience, particularly on some of the smaller airlines where you have very, very little space. And it's horrible to see airline staff having to deal with those kind of rowdy, sometimes violent passengers or, people going off for their stag do or whatever. So Michael O'Leary seems to be saying that basically passengers are getting very, very drunk at airports. They get to the gate. He says they shuffle through. No one realises quite how drunk they are. Then they get on a flight and it all kicks off. So, is he saying he doesn't want to sell them expensive booze on a flight, or is he saying that within the airport, I think he's saying 2 drinks should be the limit?
I think there's a deeper question in all of this as well. And look, don't get me wrong, I love a drink. I've had a few drinks on flights in the past. I've never been disorderly. But he says it's actually the Brits who are the worst, and all the places that he flies to, the passengers who are the rowdiest drunks are us. And we have this rep, don't we?
We're known for pubs in this country, and then there's pubs in the airports that are open 24 hours a day. But I don't agree with the 2-drink rule, because everyone's different. Some people can drink 2... If I drink 2 drinks, it doesn't really change me a lot. And it depends whether you're having medication or not. And the onus should be on the airlines, you know, the staff. If someone's staggering or you can smell a hell of a lot of booze on them, you cannot let them get on the plane. But if he's happy to take the money on the plane, he's just being a hypocrite. So it's not about he's worried about what happens on the plane. He's worried about they're probably spending more money before they get on the plane and then not buying alcohol.
Why don't they just breathalyse people getting on if they have their doubts?
Well, that's what he's talking about, some technology, wasn't he?
He said the thing is, people are getting to the gate inebriated, and he said it's hard for staff to judge. They shuffle on with their friends, and then once they get on the flight, they're in a confined space, maybe they have one more beer, and it all just kicks off.
But if you drink on land, it affects you less than if you drink in the air. But he doesn't mind you drinking in the air. It seems he doesn't want you drinking on the land.
It's a weird culture. I have friends who will literally get to the airport at 7 in the morning, and it's kind of almost a tradition, is that you go to the pub.
Have a pint.
Well, it's just
A lot of people...
If you're going on an anniversary weekend, what's wrong with having a glass of champagne with your breakfast? It's kind of...
No, but a lot of for a lot of people, it's false courage. Because they're frightened and they don't really want to.
Is that the excuse?
Yeah.
Oh, they're
or
scared.
they're celebrating, one or the other.
Yeah. There we go.
No kids for a weekend. Woo!
Wow.
Right, let's talk about Liz Truss. Just when you think you've heard it all, apparently, according to Anthony Seldon, who, to be fair, is a respected biographer, he, in his new book on her, says that she considered scrapping cancer treatment on the NHS.
To balance her budget.
It's absolutely heartbreaking reading this, and I was doing some research about cancer survival rates, and unbelievably, in the UK, we're as much as 25 years behind other European countries. In America, we're way, way behind, and it just breaks my heart. There's always so much money for foreign aid, for asylum seekers, etc., but this is very, very scary. Like, I don't have private healthcare. I used to have it, but I'm considering getting it, actually, after reading this story, because you can get some very low policies now, maybe just for cancer or just for certain things and not for other things, because if I got cancer, I would be terrified after reading that. So I feel like some people spend a lot of money on coffee or shopping, and if you can get health insurance for £50 a month, it's worth doing it. You shouldn't have to, because we pay tax and national insurance, but cancer, you're much more likely to get over it if you have private medical care, and this is evident now after reading this.
Now, apparently, an advisor in the room is reported to have said, "Is she serious?" And apparently, she was.
The Express are reporting this morning, Paula, that Reform UK and the Conservatives, there would be a lot of support for them to merge.
Yes, I would love to see a merger. I can't see it happening, but what I dream of happening, and people think I'm crazy, but it could happen, is a snap election, because I so think that Keir Starmer's out of his depth. I mean, he could have a breakdown within a year. I really don't think he's strong enough, and I think his cabinet are even worse. And also, we have to remember Theresa May, she called a snap election after 2 years. So it's not like it hasn't happened before. And then she lost, and then we had a hung parliament, and then she was with the DUP. So who knows? If they had a snap election, we could have Reform win, or they could win totally, or it could be a coalition between Reform and Conservatives, because so many Labour voters have said, I'm so angry with what's happened, I would never vote for them again. There's going to be a huge change.
But he's not going to have a snap election. Why would he?
You never know.
Well, it's like a turkey voting for Christmas.
No. Do you know what? I feel like, I don't want to go into too much detail, but I feel like, you know, obviously there's a lot of problem with Islamic extremists in the country, and a lot of things go on behind the scenes we don't know. Even in Parliament, the rules have been changed because of pressure. I feel like something could get to him. It's very dangerous politics in the UK at the moment.
And the politics of COVID. You've got here, Emma, the Facebook boss regrets bowing to demands by President Biden to censor COVID messages during the pandemic.
Yeah, so this is Mark Zuckerberg. He's been talking to the US House Judiciary Committee, and he's actually been revealing that he came under pressure to censor sort of sensitive anti-vaccine kind of messages during the COVID era, suggestions about the virus being created in that Chinese lab in Wuhan. He also revealed that that Meta have demoted content that related to Hunter Biden, who was obviously had major issues with drug addiction and all sorts of other scandals swirling around, and he had to, or Meta demoted those messages, so suppressed content.
That's terrible.
at the 2020 elections, before those 2020 elections. So it's, I mean, we all know this, but it's interesting to see at what level social media is being influenced by US politics and those in power.
Well, the same applied from Downing Street, so it did as well during COVID.
Zuckerberg said he wouldn't do it again.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes to something like COVID, that's even more sensitive than the president's or the putative president's son, isn't it?
I think so many people were very scared. In hindsight, it's 2020. A lot of people were terrified. We were dealing with the unknown.
It should be the truth. It should be about the truth.
No one knew the truth.
Yeah, but also there were things like Trump suggesting injecting yourself with bleach, and you can't be putting that on social media. There had to be fact-checking.
No, but when it comes to things like, is the vaccine safe or not, one would hope, I know, it's how you look at it, but one would hope that we are getting scientific facts on that,
but
not
all
getting the
vaccines
spin.
have problems. Like, no vaccine is 100% safe.
Screening 100% safe. We talked about this in the programme today. We had 2 doctors in who were campaigning for a national prostate screening programme.
So important. This is the most common cancer in men. If caught early, it can be dealt with. It's 4 times more expensive to deal with advanced prostate cancer than it is to deal with it early, with early detection.
Well, that's good that you're saying that.
My father died in his 90s with prostate cancer recently.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And no, but so many men have prostate issues, which isn't always cancer, and it's so easy to get checked, and men are very squeamish about this.
Well, the point you're making there, I basically said there's no chance of them getting this screening programme because we ain't got any money. But you're actually saying
it's much cheaper.
Yeah, you can save money.
Well, we also discovered this morning that the techniques have moved on, and whereas they used to be invasive, to put no finer point on it, it's no longer an invasive
now it can be a blood
screening.
Test.
It can be a blood test.
It doesn't
followed
have
up
to be
with
the
an
rubber glove
MRI
thing that men seem to be so squeamish about.
Well, understandably.
Well, understandably, but women go through. I mean, I always say this, but women have smear tests all the time. I think you have to grow up if you're going to start being silly about, don't die because you won't go for a test. Doctors are fine about it. They just do it. They get on with these tests. They have to do all sorts every day. But there is a real postcode lottery. In the north, you are, as a man, you are far more likely to die in the north and the northeast, far more likely to have advanced prostate than in the south.
Emma, got to leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies.
Paula, always a delight. Thank you very much indeed. Now we're going to go to Annie Shuttleworth, and she's got your weather picture for this Wednesday.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Through today, it will feel very warm, if not hot, for some of us. Sunny spells for many north and western areas, but plenty of long-lived sunshine across the east. We've still got the remnants of a weather front from yesterday pushing into the northwest, as well as parts of Wales, southwest England, parts of northern England. That will bring a risk of some rain and showers through the day, but it will tend to fizzle away as the day goes on. So some hazier sunshine, a risk of a chance of rain for north and western areas. In the east, though, plenty of sunshine, temperatures climbing as high as 29 degrees in the south and east, but quite widely mid to high 20s for many central and eastern areas of England. A little fresher further north and west. We've got quite brisk winds still across the far north of Scotland, and potentially still some quite heavy showers across the Northern Isles, many northern areas of Scotland, in fact, into this evening. I think they will tend to ease as the night goes on, but we've still got that risk across parts of Northern Ireland as well. Northern England staying that much drier as well as Wales, but we've still got the remnants of that weather front I mentioned earlier, bringing cloudier skies to central areas of England. Now, once that weather front does push through overnight, tonight it will turn much fresher. So tonight is going to be a much fresher night than last night. It was quite a mild night last night. So clearer skies developing quite widely across the UK and that cooler air pushing in. Bit of a brisk breeze across the north and west, and further showers will affect western areas of Scotland as well as the Northern Isles. But temperatures in towns and cities in the low teens, but we could be down in single figures rurally across many northern and western areas where we do see the longest lived clear skies. So Thursday looks like another sunny day. It's not going to be quite as warm as today, and across the north and west further showers, but I think the showers will be fewer and further between in Thursday, so many of us will stay relatively dry through the day. In any sunshine, still feeling quite warm, highs of 23 or 24 degrees in the south and east, in the high teens across the north and west. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Andy Hilbert with the latest on the roads across the UK for a Wednesday morning. The M1 South in Derbyshire, slow due to an earlier broken down vehicle. Junction 25 for Nottingham and Derby to Junction 24 for Nottingham South and East Midlands Airport and the roadworks. Currently in Kent, the coastbound M20, a speed restriction in place due to Operation Brock, where all the freight traffic has to go through the coned area. Junction 8 for Leeds Castle and the Maidstone services to Junction 9 at Ashford. In Hertfordshire, anti-clockwise on the M25, severe delays and 2 lanes closed due to a broken down lorry just before Junction 25 at Enfield. And also as well in Surrey, the southbound M3, slow due to an earlier broken down vehicle from Junction 3 for Lightwater and Bagshot to Junction 4 for the Blackwater Valley route there this morning. And in Warwickshire, the M6 South, all clear now following that accident near to Junction 4A for the M42. That was causing some delays for a time, of course. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could win an incredible £30,000 in cash. And you could be getting that winning call from us to tell you that you're our next Great British Giveaway winner.
I can't believe this.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
That is absolutely fantastic.
Over the moon. I've never won anything like this in my life.
Oh, you shocked me. I never won a penny in my life. If I was there, I'd buy you a drink.
Get your entry in now for another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash. Text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2 or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled. Lovely.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Is Starmer set to bring us closer to the European Union?
The Prime Minister has begun a visit to Germany. We're there this morning as well with the aim to start negotiations on a new treaty.
That's right. He wants to boost trade, deepen defence cooperation and increase joint action on illegal migration.
I think we're going to go live to Berlin, and we've got Chris Hope standing by because there is going to be a reception for the PM. Tell us more, Chris.
Morning, Eamonn. Morning, Isabel. Yeah, behind me you're seeing the German soldiers getting ready to welcome here Sir Keir Starmer to the German Chancellery, where, of course, Olaf Scholz, who's the German Chancellor, works. Plan behind me, you can see there. They're getting quite ready here for Sir Keir Starmer to arrive. It's a big moment here, I think, for the Prime Minister. He's looking here to deliver on that promise of the election to reset that relationship with the European Union and form deeper connections with the biggest economies on the continent. The first one he's going towards is Germany. He's met him 5 times since he became Prime Minister, Olaf Scholz. There's a clear personal connection. Just watched members of his team here just hug and embrace when they said hello. There's clearly a close connection between senior people in the UK government with those in the Berlin government too. Just waiting to see where Sir Keir Starmer is arriving behind. They're going to start talks today on a 6-month tight timetable to agree a new treaty with Germany based on one agreed in 2010 with France called the Lancaster House Agreement. Look at market access, critical science, innovation and tech, clean
and
energy,
listen to this
trade
guard of
across the
honour,
North
if you
Sea,
will.
And so it goes on.
Let's just listen in to these live pictures and come straight back to you. We've got a split screen so we can see it for ourselves. And this is a guard of honour for the arrival of Olaf Scholz and Prime Minister Starmer. Bear with. At home, we're watching pictures there of Olaf Scholz greeting the armed forces and being led up the red carpet for the VIPs within the Chancellery there in Berlin, ready to greet Sir Keir Starmer ahead of a series of bilateral meetings that will be taking place today. Starmer this morning already having met with Steinmeier at the Bellevue Palace, the first meeting since Brexit to happen in the palace there. If we've still got Chris there, we can see these cars arriving now, presumably now Starmer imminent for the Guard of Honour.
That's right, Isabel. Yes, Sir Keir Starmer is imminent. I think here he is. You see behind me, the camera might pan towards that. And there's Sir Keir Starmer getting out there on the red carpet, meeting Olaf Scholz. They're very old friends. I've met 5 times since the election. This is a key part, I think, of Sir Keir Starmer resetting that relationship with the European Union, with the UK, with the biggest economy in the EU. They're looking at signing a treaty between the two countries, the first one the UK has done since France in 2010, looking at bringing huge areas of closer cooperation on market access, critical science, innovation and tech, clean energy, trade across the North Sea, supply chain resilience, and crucially tackling illegal migration, which is a big issue here in Germany. The hope for this UK government, the new government just elected last month, is that this can reset that relationship, which was so difficult over the past 8 years post the Brexit vote back in 2016. That's the hope that Sir Keir Starmer gets. He said he would use his connections on the continent to deepen the UK's relationship with the EU, and this is starting to happen in practice here in the Chancellery, where the German Chancellor works. The PM Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer is meeting with the German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier, and then with Olaf Scholz. And then we'll see a press conference and questions from members of the travelling press pack, both the German press pack and the UK press pack. But here's a chance, I think, here for Sir Keir Starmer to deliver on that promise he made at the election, to try and get a better working relationship with key players on the continent.
For Brexiteers, Chris, who will be concerned about all of this and will be worried that this is a backdoor to perhaps even re-entering the European Union, that's not possible. You can't do that through these sorts of meetings, can you? And yes, there might be closer alignment up for negotiation next year, but this is simply about trying to, as he's been saying and you've been explaining to us, it's about trying to sort out immigration and boost the economy. So a lot of people should be reassured by that if they're worried.
Well, they should be, but of course the problem is if we get too tied into in these bilateral treaties with big countries on the continent, we then can't do maybe restrict us doing the bigger deals we want to do globally. We are told by Sir Keir Starmer it won't touch sovereignty, these deals they're doing here. So, for example, customs union, single market, that will not be touched. Those are safe and will not be touched in any talks. Those issues may emerge in this trade and cooperation agreement when they look again at this EU deal struck by Boris Johnson and see how it can be improved. That's when you might see measures that could be changed on freedom of movement, deals on fish quotas, other areas around veterinary issues and food issues. That might happen, but not now. This is an attempt by Sir Keir Starmer to deliver on the promise of being much more closely aligned.
Chris, we're just looking at Sir Keir Starmer reviewing the troops there. He's in position as the drums begin to roll.
I'm going to be quiet now while the anthems.
if you are just tuning in, we're looking at pictures there of Sir Keir Starmer in the middle of the shots, just through a bit of the haze there, and Olaf Scholz just behind him, where they've been greeted with their national anthems and now making their way along the red carpet. They're just behind you, Christopher Hope. We've got you in full frame now. Feels like a bit of a historic moment, this. Starmer looking to turn a corner on Brexit, in his own words. What sort of reception has it been? Well received in the German press, for example?
Yes, I was looking through today's edition of Die Welt earlier in the hotel. There's no mention of Sir Keir Starmer there in the obvious headlines I could read. But I think there's a sense here that this is a reset of this entire government. For me, it reminds me of the early days of the Cameron government. You've got an established Prime Minister here who will be here for 5 years with the size of his majority. We didn't do much travelling. I think I may be told not to talk, but...
being interrupted there, possibly concerns about his proximity there to the red carpet. Are you okay to carry on, or we'll take it from here?
I think I'll...
No, as things continue there in Berlin, we will come back here into the studio. Thank you, Christopher. And we've got Mark White. Mark, we're here today to talk about this astounding lack of prison places for men in England and Wales. Just 100. If there was to be some sort of fallout tonight or riot or goodness knows what, there'd be nowhere to put these guys.
Yeah, I mean, there is nowhere to put them already. We are at capacity. 100 here or there just means no difference at all. It can be any city anywhere in the country on a busy night, and their custody suites in the police station can be full of at least that number, who would then a significant number of them potentially be remanded in prison, depending on just how serious their offence is. There is no doubt there is a very significant crisis within the prison estate. That's why you've got the British government now looking at this highly controversial scheme, which is to release thousands of prisoners early. It's a scheme that would work by releasing prisoners when they've served just 40% of their prison term behind bars. Now, normally what happens is if you're jailed for, say, 3 or 4 years, halfway through that sentence, you would be released on probation. Now, just 40% of your sentence served, and you can be released providing you are not a terrorist, a sexual offender, someone who's in for serious or domestic assault. But that leaves a very significant number, in fact the majority of people who can be eligible for being released. And that scheme comes into place on the 10th of September, so really just 2 or 3 weeks away. And that, we believe, will free up some 5,500 prison places. But as I say, the difficulty and the controversial nature of adopting this plan is that 5,500 convicted criminals are going to be back on the streets. And the recidivist rate, the reoffending rate for people released from prison, the majority go on to reoffend within a year or two of release. So without doubt, a significant proportion of those released back onto the streets will be released to go on to reoffend. That will impact communities and its potential for violent offences as well, if there's those that are linked to the likes of the drug trade. So there are no easy solutions in this, and understandably people very concerned about the release of so many prisoners.
Appreciate it, Mark. Leave it there. Thank you. We go to the shadow leader of the House of Commons, Chris Philp, now to get his take on this. And, you know, Chris, you can't, you know, clean your hands of this one because you guys were there for all of this time that we get into this position where there are no prison places. How on earth do we get to this situation?
Well, good morning. Firstly, I think, in fairness, it's worth pointing out that the last government did build an extra 13,000 prison places during its time in office, and there's another 6,000 that are going to be coming online by the end of next year. But clearly, this is a concerning situation. It is up to the Labour ministers, Labour government, to manage through this. There are things I would like to see them doing. For example, there are rapid deployment cells, RDCs, which, as the name implies, can be very quickly put into use. They're essentially prefabricated cell units that can get dropped inside the secure perimeter of existing prisons. That exists as an option. I am concerned about this early release scheme that your correspondent mentioned a moment ago, due to come into force on September the 10th, that will see very large numbers of people, prisoners, criminals, released early. And I'm concerned that some of those released are going to be dangerous, pose a threat to the public. And I don't think it needs to be done on the scale that is being proposed. But we really need more prison places to be
Just
built.
to be clear, Chris, are you saying
RDCs are what we need?
Are you saying, Chris, that we're getting extra prison places, or are these replacing prisons that are being retired, basically? Are these extra, the 6,000 that you're talking about? So, in other words, would this problem be solved next year?
Well, then, yes, they are net extra places. And in fact, during last year, every week there were about 100 additional prison places were created by the previous Justice Secretary, Alex Chalk. So they were bringing on 100 more places each week than were being retired or withdrawn for refurbishment. So I think the solution to this is more prison places, and in the very short term, these rapid deployment cells, RDCs, are what I would like to see being used.
You paint a very rosy picture of when you were in power just a few weeks ago, but I remember, and those people paying attention will remember, earlier this year, I think it was February, talking to you as policing minister and your colleague Alex Chalk as the Justice Secretary, about wanting a response from the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, who was buried in other issues, kicking the can down the road. And that's something that the Prime Minister was complaining about yesterday. He said that for no good reason, this issue was just being thrown further into the long grass and has left us in this crisis. And a lot of commentary has been saying any situation where a Prime Minister is having to check the exact numbers of police cell availability every single day has to be a symptom of broken Britain. And he says that's on you.
Well, as I say, 13,000 additional prison places were built. Now, we do also have record ever numbers of police officers, and last year they successfully prosecuted 30,000 more criminals than the year before, which does obviously mean there are more people in prison because more criminals are getting caught. And that's why building these new prisons is so important. And clearly, that's partly a sort of medium-term project. It takes time to build a new prison. But you've got these RDCs, these rapid deployment cells, that can be used much, much more quickly. And that is what I would like to see the government doing as well.
OK, Chris Phelps, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you. Still to come, Bev and Andrew, they're going to be presenting Britain's Newsroom from 9:30. We'll get a brief preview of that right after the short break.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry, Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is a big old headache because we talk a lot about GP appointments, don't we? But certainly almost everyone I know struggles to see a dentist when they need one.
Yes. Yeah. You know the best time to go to a dentist? 2:30. 2:30.
That's actually quite good. It's better than my gags.
The guy that went to Goa, to India, to get his dental treatment, is that what you're talking about?
Well, yeah, so tell us about that. This is how desperate people are to get treatment now. So what's the story?
OK, the story is a guy couldn't get an appointment at the NHS, so he went all the way to Goa in India to get his dental appointment. Now, I think he probably just wanted to go on holiday, and he thought, I know, why don't I go on holiday to Goa and then get my teeth done? Look, people are travelling in their droves. There's whole aeroplanes full of people with medical tourists. Like in Turkey, you get a whole aeroplane with people with hair implants, things like that.
Well,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, I was going to go to
turkey teeth, isn't it?
turkey teeth.
Turkey teeth. Well, now we've got
that's
it.
when they strip the tooth down and you have these little pegs.
Yes, they strip them down, but in many cases, they strip them down far too low, so the nerve is exposed and it gets infected, and it's exposed to the elements. So you get infection in the tooth, and then you have to essentially take them all off. But by then, the infection spreads so far. I was getting my nails done the other day, which I don't do very often, and my nail technician said to me, "Is your dad still a dentist?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Please, can I have an emergency appointment?" I went to Turkey and I got my teeth done, and now they look incredible, but I'm in so much pain. They're all infected. She had 15 taken out from the top and 12 from the bottom, and it's an absolute disaster. But this is what people are feeling like they have to do.
So medical tourism doesn't always work.
No, but it shows, doesn't it, Alex, that people can't get their teeth sorted here, so they go elsewhere. Listen, do you floss, by the way?
Don't floss. GB News, the People's Channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Friday.
If you fancy £30,000, you need to hurry up. The lines close 5 o'clock. Here are all the details.
It's the final week to see how you could win an incredible £30,000 in cash. It's extra cash that could really make a difference to your coming year. You could find yourself on that holiday you've always wanted to take, buy that treat that always seemed out of reach, or just send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. Time is ticking. Get your entry in now. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Friday, 5 o'clock. You've been told today, 9:30. Andrew and Bev, what do you got going on?
Morning, nice to be back, actually.
We've worked together for some weeks. We're reacting still to Keir Starmer's, what I think was an appalling speech yesterday. Of course, he still says taxes are not going to rise for working people. No mention about fuel duty. We're getting Howard Cox on from the Fair Fuel Duty campaign, because I think fuel duty is going to go soaring in the budget.
Everything is. It's really, for the first time, really, we've got a real sign of what's in store. And I don't know a single person that's feeling positive about their bills going up with the energy price cap being, raised.
He did tell us in the election campaign that our energy bills will be cut £300 every year, and they're going to go up.
He's got himself into a pickle, has he not? Because they've settled with the doctors, they've settled with the train drivers. It's going to cost them a lot of money, and then they look and they think, blooming heck, there's also a big hole in the budget.
And pension's going to be a big part of it.
Yeah, and he's an ideological pedant, isn't he? That's what we're realising about Keir Starmer. He's such a sort of... People are radiators or drains, I always think. You can put people into those two. You spend time with someone, you come out and you feel revived and they're a radiator. Or you spend them with a drain and you come away feeling tired. And every time I see him now on screen, I feel tired just looking at him, because he's draining the life out of the country.
State of the Nation address, could he not put a bit of oomph into it too, really? We're also going to be having a debate about prison, because, look, you've been talking about it, right? We got an interesting conversation with Chris Philp, who was, of course, the police minister last government. I mean, but are we frankly putting too many people into prison?
Yeah.
We probably are.
I think we're putting more than anywhere else in Western Europe. Yeah.
Are we putting the wrong people into
and does it work? Putting people into prison, does it make it worse? I think there is a national debate to be had about that.
Definitely.
And I'm not, saying go soft, but I think rehabilitation has got to be in everyone's
interest.
interest.
If you had a TV licence, should you be in prison?
No. And also, of course, we'll be bringing you the latest from Germany, where Sir Keir Starmer is perhaps moving us back into the EU. So we'll let you know anything that comes out of that.
Or is he just making it softer and easier, to cooperate?
Yeah, they're buried in the Guardian story about that today is the idea that Germany may be given some more defence contracts here. Start building our defence. hello, can't we, we've got a defence industry here, build our own tanks and planes, thanks very much. Is that the deal we're going to have to do to have closer links to Europe? It's not what we signed up for.
But you get nothing for nothing.
That's right.
Yeah.
You can't. We've got to give them something back.
And we got two of our favourite panellists, Mike Parry and Stephen Pound, who always go down very well. We were talking about the censorship with Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook coming out and saying, yes, I admit that Biden told me to play down COVID, what he describes as misinformation, that there was immense censorship. The bidding of the American government.
I mean, I remember being on telly at the time. We were all told to play everything down, and that was coming from Dominic Cummings and Downing Street. And if you didn't give that message on COVID or on 5G, for instance, is another thing that you've got to do, then there are consequences to all of that.
Yeah.
That's really chilling, though, when you stop and think about what that means about informed consent, particularly when that was about a medical product during COVID. That just means that the government, you know, were telling everybody to feed the British public our propaganda.
And the TV companies listen to it as well. Guys, thanks very much. You have yourselves a good programme.
We will.
We'll be back soon at 6 o'clock. Up next, as we've just been saying, Andrew and Bev with Britain's Newsroom. First, though, one last look at the forecast, and I think it's going to be gorgeous.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Through today, it will feel very warm, if not hot for some of us. Sunny spells for many north and western areas, but plenty of long-lived sunshine across the east. We've still got the remnants of a weather front from yesterday pushing into the northwest, as well as parts of Wales, southwest England, parts of northern England. That will bring a risk of some rain and showers through the day, but it will tend to fizzle away as the day goes.